All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome out to the iVCS playoff round of 8. We finally made it here. Only 8 drivers left in the playoff hunt. We are here at the Tricky Tornado 285 at Kansas Motor Speedway, Kansas Speedway, however you want to call it. My name is Sean Griffith. I am here with Brandon Superman Brand Browning. Brandon, how's it going tonight, buddy?
Oh, it's going pretty good, brother. I am super excited. We're starting the next round, and the next to last round of the playoffs, the round of 8, tonight in the iVCS. It's all coming down to the wire. Everyone's still in now, won't be in 2 weeks. It'll knock down to 4 guys battling it out at Phoenix International Raceway. It's going to get wild.
Man, it is going to be a lot of fun tonight. We have 190 laps to figure it out there on the track. We do have 14 drivers out there, so there's some drivers out there that aren't in the playoffs. But let's take a look and see what the playoff picture looks like right now.
I think just looking, the one thing that I want to point out is the man up top, the man that's had the up and down playoff run, Timothy Latham. He's been, middle of the pack, mediocre. Hasn't really, ran the way we've seen Timothy Latham run, Sean. And right now he's got the opportunity with a good finish here tonight. Just, stay alive. He can just about solidify him punching his ticket in next week with another good finish. And that takes all the pressure off at Martinsville. 4-point lead right now over the man that has basically been his shadow this season, Oskar Jensen. Positive 34 and positive 38 for Jensen and Latham. But, Sean, take a look just below that. It's a cluster just below those two, and no one else is safe at all.
Yeah, man, 6 guys within 14 points of the cut line. So that means that tonight's race can either set you up for the rest of this round or could drop you all the way out. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see what all those guys do.
Yeah, and right now, the 2 guys that I see that need a good finish, Kendall Braun and Dakota Jorgensen. If they have a bad finish here, they're going to put themselves in a must-win situation. And no one wants that here in the iVCS, where the 8 guys left have been the 8 top guys throughout the playoffs. I mean, if you look down there in the gray below it, you've eliminated some great drivers that, honestly, on any given night can go out there and win the thing. And, you got some pretty good finishes down there amongst those guys, just not what you would need to still be alive in the iVCS. So we're down to the best of the best in the iVCS left now, and it can only get tighter.
If you look over to the right side, you can see the payouts that these guys are going for. So first place in the league is going to win $235. So second place, $100. Third place, $75. Fourth place, $50. And so that's what these guys are battling for. They're trying to get into that final 4, so that way they're guaranteed at least $50.
Yeah, and obviously, I don't know if it's on record. I will say that 8th place on up, you'll get your money back for the season, which is pretty much what you can ask for here with this much talent in one season. These guys are the top dogs. There's not many guys in this league that I can say, hey, I can beat that guy. Obviously my only win beating the 2 guys you see up top is on a restrictor plate. The one in second place helped me win that race. So these guys are much better than I am. They're all vying for that $235, Sean, but only one of them is going to take it home.
That is absolutely correct, and I can't wait to see who that is. But let's kind of go through these drivers and talk about each one of them. And let's start off with the man right now. So number 5, Timothy Latham, he has been the most consistently good driver all season long.
Yeah, and the one thing that I want to highlight on him, just speaking back to the last time we went to Kansas, we ran a 150-lap race, if I'm not mistaken, Sean, and he led 123 of them. The last time Timothy Latham was on an 8-race winless streak, we came to Kansas, and he snapped that streak. And tonight we enter Kansas with Timothy Latham on an 8-race winless streak, Sean. So obviously good things for the man up top.
Definitely. You can see there, he's led 22% of the laps in the entire league. He's been top 5 in over half of his races. This is the guy that most people would be betting on. But, Brandon, don't look now, but Oskar Jensen in the 51, remind me how he did at Kansas last time.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. This man's had the hot hand in the playoffs. There's not been a better driver in this playoffs than Oskar Jensen. And the last time we went to Kansas, Oskar only led 11 laps. but he finished less than a second behind the leader. So he was the shadow, much as he's been the entire season, of Timothy Latham. If Timothy slips up, Oscar capitalizes. And the biggest thing that I want to point out, Sean, I don't know if our viewers at home took a look. Timothy Latham, 7 wins. Oskar Jensen, 7 wins. The tiebreaker could be tonight, and who better than the guys that finished 1-2 the last time we were here.
But as you can see on the screen, Timothy Latham's 7 wins were all during the regular season. 3 of Oskar Jensen's wins have been here in the playoffs, so that's why we are calling him Mr. Playoffs right now.
Yeah, he is the hottest hand by far. And if Timothy Latham does not get the ball rolling here now, that's an odd thing to say about Timothy Latham. It's hard to say, hey, he's not doing good, because he's still doing great. We saw in the points that he's the points leader, but he's not as hot as the man on your screen right now, Mr. Playoffs, Oskar Jensen.
Next up, we have Zach York, who we didn't even think was going to be in the playoffs, but here he is in 3rd position going into the round of 8. He's led the 2nd most laps in the entire league. He's got 2 wins, but both of those wins have been on short tracks.
Yeah, he has not won a race on a track bigger than a mile. Bristol, a half-mile. Dover, a 1-mile racetrack. He's led laps. He's been consistent. And he's had some good runs, Sean, but he has not found victory lane in a mile and a half. If I'm not mistaken, some of our guys watch pre-race. Tonight, Zach York, your opportunity to break through and win that mile and a half, one of the 2 last mile and a halves on the season. It's time, brother. Bring that 49 car to victory lane and shine, because you've had a solid season, and nothing would look better than a P next to a mile and a half win for a playoff win.
Yeah, he's 7 points above the cut line, but look at his teammate right behind. This is Benjamin D. He is just 4 points above the cut line. So these guys, even though they're teammates, they're kind of battling against each other for that last spot.
Yeah, and that's the one thing there. You see the 2 wins, Daytona and the Roval. Benjamin D, for me, has been the guy who's just carried momentum from the regular season over. If you exclude Oskar Jensen for a second, the next hottest hand is going to be Benjamin D. He finally, after so many close finishes, so many opportunities to win, he finally broke through at Daytona, the final race of the regular season. He won that race. He's had solid finishes, as you see, top 5 in 40% of his races. But he got a Roval win just last week, and he's coming off of a hot hand. He also does not, as you see, have, honestly, a win on a track shorter than 2 miles. So also an opportunity here for him to downgrade a little bit and win on a mile and a half, the same as his Arrows teammate.
Next up, we got Justin Boyles, the leader of the iVCS himself. And so he created this entire league, but, you know, he sees these drivers in front of him, but he is in a special car tonight, Brandon.
That's what I was about to say, Sean. Remind me, I've gotten word that he's driving the KISS car, Sean. I can't quite remember what happened the last time Boyles was in that KISS car.
From my understanding, the last 2 times that he's been in the KISS car, he's come away as a winner.
And do you know how long the tracks he came away as a winner were?
About a mile and a half, if I remember correctly.
A mile and a half. The hottest hand right now on a mile and a half, none other than the Alabama kid, Justin Boyles. He's got the Las Vegas playoff win. He's got the Kentucky regular season win. The winner on the last 2 mile and a half tracks in the KISS car. Brings it back to Kansas tonight. The one down thing I do have to say about Boyles, though, Sean, he and one of the drivers coming up in a moment share the worst finish at Kansas of the remaining playoff drivers. The last time we were here, Justin netted a 20th place finish.
Well, I'll tell you something else. Look at that. 3 clean races, 2 wins in those clean races. So his key tonight is going to be keep the car clean.
They were working hard on that setup for sure. And another man that you should be worried about. He's come alive as of late, but he's been a quiet alive. Mr. Clean, Chad Genningsman. He has the fewest incident points in the playoffs. 10% or top 10 in 65% of his races, Sean. He only has 1 win at Indianapolis, but, you know, the guys he was ranked number 4 to in the regular season are tough drivers. So number 4, still a win. But in our last 4 out of the last 5 races, he's finished top 6 or better.
And so this is the time for him to shine, because if he does that for the next 3 races in a row, he will make it into the Final Four. Next up, we've got Kendall Lavron. So Kendall, it was the surprise of the playoffs, the very first week of the playoffs, back when it was 16 drivers in the playoffs. He walked away with a win, and that kind of shocked a lot of people. But here he is, still in there in the round of 8.
Yeah, and the one big thing that I want to say, and I'm guilty of even this, and for this I must apologize to Kendall. When you looked at that stacked field of 16 playoff drivers, a lot of people were saying, hey, there's no way that Kendall Lavron makes it to the final, the final 8, one of the last 8 drivers left. But you see there at Pocono, he got the win. Yeah, a couple things fell his way, but he charged right back at Darlington a couple weeks later, and he just flat out outrun everyone. A couple of bad pit stops got him a little behind, but he charged back up through the field and got it done and won a playoff race here, Sean.
Yes, he did. Can't wait to see what he does tonight. But finally, we have number 24, Dakota Jorgensen, who usually has a good little fan base out there in the chat. So I'm sure we'll see them here in just a moment. No wins just yet, though.
No, but the one thing that I want to touch on more than anything else, and the fans of Dakota Jorgensen will love to hear this, Sean, 4 people in this league with a better average finish than Dakota Jorgensen. Now, they're tough drivers. Timothy Latham, Zach York, Benjamin D, and Chad Genningsman, the only drivers with a better average finish than Dakota Jorgensen this season.
And that's going to bode really well for him. And also take a look that his best finish was on a 1.5-mile track, just like this at Atlanta back in week 5.
Yeah, and I mean, he's had a little bit of a downside of things. But what happens when you're down, Sean? The only thing you can do is go up. And I think tonight we see that 24 car rise to the top and have maybe his best race of the playoffs so far.
Well, let's get out there on the track and take a look. Qualifying has ended, and up front, Timothy Latham himself, so our points leader and the leader pretty much all season long, up front for the pole position, and then Justin Boyles in second.
In third place, the guy we were talking about being the dark horse, Kendall Lavron, followed by Chad Genningsman in fourth, another Flashpoint driver in the top 4.
In fifth position, Benjamin D, and then his teammate right behind him, Zach York, in sixth.
Seventh place is Dakota Jorgensen, the number 24 car. But, Sean, the one that I look at as odd is the 8th place starter, Oskar Jensen. I'm so used to seeing him starting at the back. It could be bad news for these guys that he starts 8th tonight.
Jason Tripp in 9th. Now, he's not in the playoffs anymore. He was in the beginning, but had some pretty bad performances, honestly. I know he'll hate me saying that, but now he is out of the playoffs, but he is still in there racing. Greg Edney also still racing. He's no longer in the playoffs either.
Yeah, and we also, Richard Springer, kind of the same deal. Not in the playoffs here tonight, but still running for the Tier 2 playoffs that are alive and well. He'll start 11th. With Philip Loy starting in the 12th position.
All right, well, that is your top 12. We do have 14 cars out there. We're just waiting on everyone to get gridded up, and then we are going to get this party started. Brandon, I've been waiting all week for this.
So have I, and the one thing that I've been waiting on more than anything else, you see that beautiful, great bubblegum car on the front row. I got a sneak peek at that car before it was done. As you heard last week, Timothy Latham said that I spoiled his opportunity, so we're going to get it on the screen right now and show everyone that beautiful masterpiece that Timothy Latham has come up with. And we'll take a look at some different cars. A lot of guys running pretty much their normal paint schemes, but Timothy Latham sporting the great bubblegum Raise Energy paint scheme tonight.
And there's the Kiss paint scheme for Justin Boyles. So that is his lucky paint scheme, and he goes back to it when he needs a big race.
Yeah, and one thing's for sure, I know, the guys out in the chat with us can't hear Justin Boyles. Talked to him a little bit before the race. He's feeling awful. Got a little bit of a cold going on, but hopefully he does get to feeling better, Sean. What a better way to make you feel good than a win at Kansas in the playoffs.
Absolutely, and that's what he is looking for. That's what all these guys are looking for, obviously. So the top 8 are currently our playoff drivers, and then everybody else is back in the back. That's just how the qualifying worked. But if you look at the top of your screen, the ones in blue are the ones that are above the cut line. The ones in red are the ones that are below it. And the ones that are in black are the ones not in the playoffs. So here we go, Brandon.
And Timothy Latham already ready to go in Kansas Speedway. He takes us green flag racing. Justin Boyle's quick to jump to the inside behind him. Sean, and we're off for 190 laps around this fast 1.5 miles that is Kansas Speedway.
And Timothy got a great jump. He is out there to get it going. And, I mean, he led all the laps basically at Kansas last time around. He wants to do the same thing.
Yeah, if there's one thing I know about Timothy Latham, he sees 123 as a challenge. That's what he had last time. He wants at least 124 tonight. But I tell you what, if there's one car I have to watch, and we'll do our picks in just a moment, it's the car following him, the 8 of Justin Boyle.
Just looking back towards the back a little bit, I know we talked to Jason Tripp just a little bit before the broadcast, and he says that he likes the setup that he has, but there's Justin Boyles going to the lead already.
Yeah, and honestly, every part of me finds it so hard to pick a winner here because I see cars, and if you look at the top 6, you could throw a blanket over every one of them. The guys further back, the back 8, so to speak, only 14 cars in the field. Still yet, any of them have an opportunity here. It is Kansas. You know, guys have got plenty of practice as the iRacing official week race this season, or this week, is Kansas. So these guys got plenty of track time on Kansas no matter where they look. And I will say that 91 right now does look a little sporty as he's challenging for position early underneath Dakota Jorgensen.
Yeah, Chad Gunnigsman going up to the lead on the inside. They were 3 wide just for a little while there, and he will eventually, I believe, clear. Nope, not quite yet. We're still 3 wide.
And I know we're early, but I just heard on my radio, fastest lap of the race right now, the 91 of Jason Tripp. So we'll go ahead and make our picks real quick because it's getting crazy for these guys battling for the lead. I'm going to go with that great bubblegum car, Timothy Latham.
Yeah, I'm going to go a little bit different. I am going to say that Benjamin D keeps his streak alive tonight. Oh, no!
There's contact! More contact. Jason Tripp involved, locks it down, inside wall and around.
And we have the caution. Oh, man, and Jason was on such a tear, and that could possibly even end the race already for him. We'll find out. Let's go to a rec replay here.
I do know he lost the front end of that number 91 machine, and for me, it's so heartbreaking because that car looked lightning fast.
You will see that the action was in front of him with Gunnigsman, and then LeVron just kind of bailed out, and a huge hit for Jason Tripp. And that is going to be tough for him to recover from.
Yeah, honestly, the front end missing off of that shows me that there's likely a little bit of motor damage. Didn't quite blow the motor, but you see there, Chad's going to wash up a little bit, tag his teammate, and almost come down and get another teammate as calamity basically happens behind him. Kendall LeBron getting in again to Jason Tripp. A couple of guys there in the playoffs. Boyles, LeBron, and Gunnigsman going to find some damage there. Obviously, I think the worst of the damage went to our non-playoff driver, Jason Tripp.
Well, let's take a look at Kendall LeBron. So, and that was a little bit too far forward. Let's back it up. So basically, he was trying to check out because Benjamin D had to slow up, and there was nowhere for Jason Tripp to go. So, just one of those things that everybody was slowing down at the same time.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's exactly the case, Sean.
All right, so back out to our live camera. And we are taking a look. So a lot of people in the pits right now. So some people came in anyway just to get tires and to get fuel. Looks like Justin Boyles is in there trying to get some damage repaired. So he's been in there for about 25 seconds now. So he is trying to get something fixed up from that bumping and grinding in there. Kendall LeBron, he came in, looks like, for a full pit stop. Everyone else came in basically for fuel, it looks like.
Yeah, and just looking at the 8 car, I've kind of checked the damage on the 8 car. A little bit of right front damage, little bit of right rear damage, but doesn't look like much that's going to slow that 8 machine down. Obviously, the bad news, as we talked about in pre-race, the clean races are what have got Justin Boyles the wins on the 1.5 miles, and early in this race, it's not looking so hot for the driver of the number 8 machine.
No, it's not, but you never know what happens with that KISS car. You just never know what he can do with it. Now, while we're kind of under caution here, let's take a glance here. So our biggest movers, right now actually, our biggest movers are Ted Pullen, who started off in the 14th position. He is up to 9th, as well as Philip Loy, who started off in 12th. He is up to 7th.
Yeah, so those guys making their way up quick. Now, of course, our Ted Pullen fans will be here at some point. However, right now, Ted Pullen not in the playoffs, but he's going to come alive and give it all he's got. He wants a win in this series, and if there's anyone that doesn't have one, that deserves one, that's capable of getting one, it's the driver of the 54 machine, Ted Pullen.
Well, out there in the chat, they're asking, so what are the stages for tonight? So lap 55, lap 110, and then, of course, the final lap itself. So lap 55 is going to be our first stage.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, it's early for trouble, Sean. You don't want to be in trouble this early. But they found trouble a little bit early, so we'll see if they calm down, if they keep it clean from here, or we see more of the same. The one thing I will say is if they keep beating and banging and only 4 cars survive, it's going to solve things simply, Sean. Take us back to the green.
All right, Timothy Latham gets the green flag, so it is his restart, and there he goes. He drops down to the bottom of the track, gets a great restart. Zach York on his tail, Benjamin D on the outside, Jorgensen trying to get around Benjamin D.
Yeah, and honestly, right now, the one thing that 5 car wants is none of what's going on behind him. He wants to get some gone, take off, and leave the guys racing around him and not have to worry about the bumping and banging.
Well, right now, he is not getting too far ahead as Zach York, who has led the second most laps in the league for the entire season, is on his tail. He wants to lead some himself.
Yeah, and right now is an opportunity for Zach York to punch his way in to correct what we said in pre-race. He hasn't won on a 1.5 miles. Now's his opportunity.
And it looks like right now Dakota Jorgensen in 3rd. And so he is going to dive down to the inside and try to take that second position away from Zach York, as both of them are tailing Timothy Latham. Timothy's loving that.
Yeah, and there's one place Timothy does like to be. That's in the number 1 spot. He likes the satisfaction of knowing he's the guy out in control of this thing. But I tell you, one driver coming for him right now, another teammate, Dakota Jorgensen, peeking inside of Zach York for the second position. Now going to fall back, actually going to take the spot away and charge forward to his teammate, Timothy Latham.
And so just to update everybody, so Jason Tripp, who was involved in that first accident, he is in the pits still. He is already 5 laps behind, so likely really not really a chance for him to get back into this.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the reason I say that that's a rough situation, he still, as of right now, holds the fastest lap on the racetrack. So as we get further into this thing, we'll see if these guys find a way to become faster. Unfortunate luck for Jason Tripp, and that pretty much sums up his season, Sean. I mean, he's had a bunch of fast sets underneath that car, but just not things going his way the way that he would have liked.
Well, we got another purple car coming into the picture. That's the number 51 of Oskar Jensen, moving into 3rd place, getting some really good runs off that outside wall. And so he is tracking down Dakota Jorgensen right now.
Yeah, and the one thing that's got to be worrisome, if you're Timothy Latham, that 51 car, it's just as purple as Timothy's is, and it's just as fast right now as Timothy's is, as he's charging outside for the second position. Man, Sean, the front of the field seems like you either have to be pink or purple to be fast at Kansas tonight.
Absolutely. Now, Zach York and Benjamin D, their cars are always pink. I know Dakota Jorgensen, his car was pink last week and this week, obviously for breast cancer awareness, and same thing with Oskar Jensen's number being pink. So thank you guys for doing that. We definitely support breast cancer awareness and hope that everyone out there does the same thing.
Yeah, and honestly, I want to take a moment here. I don't know that he'll watch the broadcast back or tune in, but I want to give a huge shout-out to Joaquin Meza. And I know a lot of people don't know who that is. He's a good friend of mine. He put together a Racing for the Cure race just a week ago on Saturday night. And, a lot of guys came out, participated, donated to the cause. Cancer is a terrible thing, so I know Joaquin had surgery the following Monday, so hopefully him a speedy and fast recovery. But appreciate the opportunity. I like to get involved in any type of charity races that I can in any way. And, it was some good racing that took place there at that track. And obviously, October, as you said, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And we're about to have some breast cancer awareness numbers battling for the lead right now. Oskar going to wash a little high, give up a big run to Zach York. Actually going to go from challenging for the lead to falling back to third and maybe to fourth as Boyle rebounding from the early contact.
Yeah, you can see Oskar Jensen get right up on the tail of Timothy Latham. Couldn't hold the line, so he had to tap the brake. And when that happened, Zach York was right there for it.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's going to be the story of it, is if you just get too high, Timothy.
Oh, in the wall.
Oh, Oskar going to add some contact to that number 51 machine. But you see Timothy running that high line. He's able to hold it up there about 3/4 of a car length off the wall. A lot of these guys trying a similar line to Timothy and just overstepping that boundary, the cushion if it was dirt racing, getting up into the wall and causing a little bit of damage. Timothy actually gets loose there off of 2, so maybe some ill-handling race cars early in this thing.
That's to be expected, especially early as these guys are waiting for the cars to come into their own. That's to be expected out here, but you have to be really careful, especially running that high line, because if you get too loose, you're going to tap that wall, and that's going to hurt the rest of the race.
Yeah, and honestly, any type of contact like that, obviously Boyles is showing that it hasn't really hurt his car, but, just running in fourth right now with a little bit of damage he could be leading this thing, Sean, without that damage. So a little bit goes a long way in terms of damage with the new damage model iRacing has brought to the table. And one driver that is scaring me back up front, Timothy Latham. So he's really in that high line there. He's leaving himself a lot of wiggle room. And some of these drivers, much like I think Zach York and the guys behind him have done, they've come down a little bit away from that wall. But Timothy this time actually going to come down as well. But some guys landed all on the line early. Kansas.
Well, Benjamin D had laid off just a little bit, and now he's right back up there in the thick of things. They're all battling for that second and third position right now. So tight race at the front.
Yeah, and man, there's so much need right now in second to about sixth place, excluding Oskar Jensen, who's a little bit more comfortable than the rest of these guys. If you look back, Zach York, Justin Boyles, Kendall LeBron, Benjamin D, Dakota Jorgensen, all of the guys that need the points are right there together. They're running for a little bit of contact. I'm going to go back and check that air. Yep, it led to a caution. It's going to be Ted Pullen and Richard Springer bringing out the caution.
Well, we will go back and we will check out what happened there with and Richard Springer spinning down on the apron. So we will check that out with a rec replay.
If I'm not mistaken, Ted got a little loose off the corner and might have tagged up old Richard Springer there. Take a look to just be sure. Gets a huge run outside. It looks like Richard washing up a little bit in the center of the corner. Yeah, Ted's rear end. You see he lost the rear of the car, comes down the racetrack, and actually net-coated Richard Springer more than anything. Ted going to take a hard lick to the outside wall. Richard Springer a hard lick as he skates down the racetrack and tries to keep from hitting that inside wall.
So a little bit of damage there. I'm not sure it's going to be enough to keep him out of the race. I think there's plenty of time to get that fixed.
Yeah, I saw that, unfortunately, though, for Ted Pullen, I believe he lost the front end, the front valence of that race car as well. So much like Jason Tripp's night, not going the way he would have liked. So, another non-playoff driver, at least, if there is a positive seeing these cars get involved in a wreck, but I did receive confirmation from Jason Tripp. His night pretty much done after that early contact. Still hasn't left pit road. Honestly, is still in the session, but has not left pit road. So unfortunate. Actually, I see maybe my scoring's just wrong. He's out there on the track now, so my scoring's still showing him in pit road, so maybe a little bit behind. But nonetheless, he does have that machine back out there. But, much as he said to me, night's pretty much over. I think, not sure how many laps down. How many laps down is Jason right now? Showing about 14.
Right now, about 14 laps, yeah. So I mean, pretty much impossible to come back from that. There's not going to be 14 cautions. There better not be 14 cautions in this race.
Well, I was going to correct what you were about to say there when you said there better not be. Was much more likely than saying there will not be, because I do know these guys are going for it more than anything else. So who knows at this point what's going to go on. Hopefully you're right, though. Hopefully we don't have anywhere near 14, excluding our 2 stage cautions. Hopefully that is the final caution we'll see of the night, Sean.
Well, the first place car right now is still Timothy Latham, but he's got some company on the track, and they were not holding back at all.
Yeah, and honestly, I was just looking. It looked like Chad Genixman, something he's been doing quite a lot recently, waited one more lap to come to pit road. So, interesting strategy. I saw him do that a couple more times in the playoffs. So, something maybe he's working on. That one extra lap, Sean, could go a long way in terms of fuel at the end.
Well, that, and I mean, if you think about it, it's really not a bad idea for him. I mean, there's so many laps left to run, only 14 cars out on the track, so you don't have to pass that many people. So yeah, get out there, play the fuel strategy.
Yeah, and honestly, just as we said, if by chance Kansas turns into a typical Kansas race, I'm sure we'll see a fuel mileage race of some sort, whether or not it, be a full-on fuel mileage race or just, who has a little bit newer tires at the end. It could very well play big for the driver of that 9 car.
And you can see there, so everybody pitted on lap 22. Justin Boyles pitted on lap 22 as well. So everybody out there basically in the same pit strategy at this point. However, Boyles, his last stint was only 16 laps, so he used those fresher tires to move up just a little bit, get some track position. And so we'll kind of keep track of that as we go along throughout the night tonight.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, as you're talking there, Sean, it'll be interesting to see just how a little bit older tires works for Boyles this time. Did not, to my knowledge, take tires there. Did stay for a full fuel load, come back out, pretty much where he went in. So a little bit older tires for him, but still yet maybe that 8 car is better on the long run.
Yeah, they do have limited sets of tires in this race, so they were given 6 extra sets of tires, and so they've got to really be cautious about using them up too early, because if this thing goes green, white, checker a couple times, then you might want those fresh tires.
Yeah, I think that is exactly correct. I know that any of the guys that, took tires on lap 22 cannot afford to do it every 22 laps. They'll just, run out of tires a little bit sooner than they'd like. So we'll see how long they stretch it here. Obviously, a green flag stint of about 30 to the stage when we go back green here. This time, Sean, the pace car back inside. The purple car is on the front row. Timothy Latham waiting, and gone down to the apron, trying to get a jump. Little bit of wheel spin by Oscar on the outside with those fresh tires, and Timothy's going to be clear heading into 1.
And he jumps out to a nice little gap right off the bat as the outside just stalled.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Ooh, Oscar disappearing for a moment. Now Benjamin D disappearing for a moment. So a little bit of blinking going on your screen, but Timothy Latham sees the wad of cars behind him and wants no part of it. Zach York, washing up the track now. They're 3 wide off of 4. Zach York trying to find comfort in that loose race car on new tires. Yet again, Benjamin D makes the pass and blink out while doing so. Justin Boyles back to about the 5th position, working on 6th position through the corner. Just going to take it easy for now. So, a lot of racing going on. Lap 27 of 190 right now, and they're going after it early, Sean.
Man, this is one of those tracks where that outside line gets such a good run out there that's almost where you want to be. But when you get trapped down there on the inside, it's tough to make it stick. And so that's what makes this track so much fun to drive, is that the inside really doesn't have an advantage.
Yeah, and honestly, you see Timothy Latham, Dakota Jorgensen, Justin Boyles right now, they're on new tires. So they're down on the bottom, running pretty close to wide open, right on that bottom line. That's where the speed is. Now, Oscar's able to kind of counteract that a little bit on the outside, get a big run down the straightaways, but in about 3, 4, 5 laps here, you'll see everyone come up off the bottom, and honestly, Timothy may start that here. Yep, right now he's going to start that inner about a lane higher. Oscar way up top on the very edge of the racetrack, trying to get a run as he fell back there. A little bit of close contact between he, Jorgensen, and Boyles. But now Timothy under fire from 2 of his Flashpoint Racing teammates, Sean.
All 6 of these cars are all in the playoffs right now. They're all in the round of 8, and so they're all competing for those top 4 spots. So they're not going to let up at all. Now there's about a 2-second gap back to 7th place right after these guys.
Yeah, and right now, just looking at the scoring, the top 9 holds all 8 playoff drivers. The only driver not a part of the top 8 as we sit currently, Chad Genningsman, who is in 9th. So first through 7th, playoff drivers right now. Obviously, Kendall LeBron, Chad Genningsman a little further back than the guys going for it now. And Sean, I have to say, with the way they're racing, they're sitting in the best seat right now.
Yes, they are. Jorgensen gets up there, takes the lead away from Latham. Justin Boyles not liking that at all. He wants that lead for himself. They are going to line up going into this corner, but man, nobody is relaxing right now, Brandon.
No, and honestly, I like the spot of the Aero cars right now. They're staying with this lead pack, so there's the shot as the race goes on. But right now, if something happens, Zach York, final of the lead pack, just trying to get out of the way if something breaks crazy here on lap 32. Obviously, for much of these guys, excluding the 5 and the 51, these stage points, first and second in the stage, would be huge as they're 3 wide. Oskar Jensen carrying a beautiful run up to the high side there. He was part of the 3 wide action, and honestly, he's going to get a big run. Boyle's going to come down to block. Jensen going to go back to the high side, so he's using those big runs to his advantage where he loses a little time getting in, but he gains so much getting off. But as I was saying, Sean, playoff stage points right now are huge for a lot of these drivers outside of the top 2, be it Timothy Latham and Oscar Jensen. They need all they can get here.
Usually we go back through the pack and check out, what the closest race is going on and stuff like that. But these are the closest races on the track already up front. All 6 of these guys all vying for the lead. And so Boyle's under fire right now by Oscar Jensen.
Yeah, just a quick little update. Outside of these top 6 cars, you got a pack of 2 behind these guys, which seems to be LeVron and Engelkens. And then it's a drop back to, Philip Lloyd, Genningsman, Edney, Ted Pullen are all back there. So that's kind of the spread out. This group here, then 2 cars, then about the rest of the field that's still running, all back there together. So nothing going on that you're missing so far. A lot of single file racing back there. They are in the pack. Honestly, this is by far the best race on the racetrack as Timothy Latham now making a charge. Both of his teammates led a lap. So he said, hey, boys, it's time for this 5 car to go back to the point. Oscar's not getting away from me. And again, you see the arrows back there at the back of the pack. Now Zach York peeking inside for 3rd as we're closing in on about 20 left.
Well, the way this race is going, I'm not sure Timothy Latham is going to be able to get his record on laps led at Kansas because nobody's letting him do it.
No, and honestly, the more these guys lead here on Timothy Latham, the closer he's actually going to get to that record being impossible. Because 123 obviously is still a large portion of this race. Ooh, just watching a little bit of a battle on the back there. Starting to heat up just a tad amongst Philip Lloyd, Chad Genningsman, and Ted Pullen, but still yet way behind the leaders who continue each lap. This is much like a Daytona or Talladega race, Sean, where if you're leading one lap, you might not be in the lead the next time around.
Yeah, this has been pretty good racing for a 1.5 mile oval. So this is kind of not what we expected, but what we'd love to see.
Yeah, we honestly talked before the race. We expected it to get spread out quickly and pretty much stay that way. But with the draft, with the setups on these cars, it's been quite the opposite. And, just as I was alluding to earlier, what you see here is much what that second pack of cars back there is doing. They're just single file within about the same frame of traffic. And then you got the two cars separated from them back there right now. The front pack is Benjamin D and Dakota Jorgensen. That's how the rest of the field looks so far. So pretty much single file now. I think we've got one side-by-side battle, but it's for about the 10th position. Other than that, everyone running single file among the top of the racetrack.
Well, I watched Zach York just a few turns ago. He tried the low side again, and when he did that, his car started sliding. And so I expect that pretty much everybody's going to be on this top line until lap 55.
Yeah, honestly, as I was saying, Sean, about 10 laps in, the tires here, with it being hot and slick like it is in Kansas, the tires have become mush. So right now, if you go back to the incident you saw first, Boyles and Koenigsmann, a lot of that was the tires started to wear. Koenigsmann moved to the low side to try just as close as he could to Boyles to make the pass, and kind of made a little bit of contact. That's about how passing is going to go from this point. Ooh, Oskar going to get loose off of 2, open the door for Timothy with a big run, arrow help from his teammate, but not going to peek inside, Sean, because as I was just saying, it's going to be so hard to make it stick any lower than Oscar's running, but Oscar's kind of running a defensive line where he's taking up both of those lanes.
Yeah, it's going to probably be about 10 laps of racing after a pit stop and then just maintaining the rest of the way.
Yeah, that's what makes the racing so crazy and chaotic, much like we saw after that restart. These guys know the tires were going to wear after about that long. They've been in the race cars for practice before this race, and even if they've run, Sean, a public session, an A open, a B open, a C open, these cars get so loose anywhere but on the top, and once you're on the top, you either ride or slide. I mean, really, honestly, ride or slide is probably the perfect way. This probably should have been the ride or slide 285 at Kansas, because that's what you're going to see most of the night.
I'm really curious to see if anybody takes advantage and tries to get some track position here with 55 coming up. Do any of these guys in the back take advantage of that, come in around lap 52, 53, and then that way they have some track position, maybe? I don't know.
Based on my experience this week at Kansas, I hope not. I have been in 3 different Kansas races, 2 C opens, or 2 C race, 2 C fixed, and an A fixed. Both times guys tried to do that after about 20 laps, Sean. The field got crashed on the restart. There was no grip left on the tire. So I hope no one plays that strategy. If you're here for the incidents that are going to take place, if that by chance does happen, you're going to see an incident. I know these guys are a lot better than some people in an A fixed race, but that's just been my experience. The tire spin is not worth the track position because you're going to lose it.
Yeah, and make no mistake, these are not fixed cars. These are open setups, and most drivers like the fast, loose setup. And so when you add fast and loose already to even more loose because of the tires, it just creates havoc.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and that was honestly perfectly said. I mean, if these guys, when you talk about the fixed set, which is relatively snug from a driver standpoint, just as you said, you've seen Jensen sliding, Latham sliding, obviously, a little bit tighter cars in the field, but there actually Timothy went into a little bit of a tail slide on that number 5 car. You're exactly right, Sean. When you put tire spin on top of that, it's going to be a disaster. And right now we're seeing a little bit of a breakaway amongst Oskar Jensen, finally starting to get away from the guys behind him. But really, with the stage where it's going to end, it's too little too late. I don't think he gets very far from Timothy here. Timothy actually going to charge back in the corner, take away the gap that he had gained. But the top 3 all within a second of each other right now.
Well, with 9 laps to go, and these first 2 stages are relatively short, 55 apiece, and then we get the big long stage, the 80-lap stage, and so I think that's where you're going to see the breakaways in that 80-lap stage.
Yeah, especially when you start talking pit strategy. Honestly, that's going to be just thinking about it, Sean, the fuel window, 35 to 40 laps. Don't really expect to see but one pit stop in the final stage. So taking tires now, I retract what I said before. Honestly, probably not a bad idea every time you can take tires to take tires. If you look at it, 55, you needed one pit stop. You're going to be close on fuel here, but I think they get to the gap, especially Chad Gettingsman. I know Gettingsman can make it. So they're going to get to the gap there with a one pit stop. We'll see one pit stop in stage 2, whether it be under green or yellow. And then we'll see no more than 2 pit stops if it stays green in stage 3. So honestly, not a lot of opportunity to make up positions with strategy.
So now Latham's job in the next 6 laps is basically just to put as much pressure as he can on Oskar Jensen, make Oskar make a mistake, because if Oskar has to get out of the gas, then that's when Latham can go by. Justin Boyles, I think, will probably stay back there in 3rd place. No reason to risk it right now unless something just absolutely opens up. But, oh, well, I said that, and there he goes to the inside.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to work. I think he's going to lose a lot of time. What I was going to say I expect to see over Latham, we kind of saw right there. Latham back to that corner up. Obviously didn't work for him this time, but, Sean, I expect Latham off of 4 to try to back his corner up, get a huge run on Oskar, and when Oskar takes that fast line at the bottom, maybe Timothy pokes his nose outside and takes the outside away in turns 1 and 2. I think that'll be the easiest way around.
Oh, no! Whoa! That's Jorgensen. Gets into the wall, gets down onto the apron. Everybody's still okay. We are still green.
Yeah, that was a beautiful save for Dakota because he needs as many stage points as he can here to, 14 points down. Got to capitalize when he can. It's 14 points below the cut line, and stage points are going to be what makes that up easier than anything. So a rebound here hopefully didn't hurt the car too bad, but tires starting to go away for these race cars. Luckily, less than 5 to go to the stage break.
Yeah, they desperately need a pit stop because everything is just getting so slick, and nobody's going to be the first one to come down there, so the yellow flag will have to determine it.
Yeah, right now we're seeing what I was talking about. Going to take that high line away from Oskar. Oskar going to stay clear, force his way clear. Timothy's going to shove him down into the corner, so we know the game plan now. It was just as I called. Timothy wants that outside going into 1, but now he's going to have a huge run on the inside of Oskar. Going to change up how they run turn 3. Timothy going to stick it, see if he can make it work down there, and he's clear. Will he pull the slide job? He does. Clear. Timothy Latham, your new leader, with just a couple laps to go in the stage, Sean.
Now, really, Oskar could have stayed in the gas there, and he could have gotten into the back of Latham, but chose not to. Good, safe driving by Oskar. Yes, I know you lost the lead right there, but no sense in wrecking yourself or somebody else this early in the race.
Yeah, we saw a lot of air being changed hands there. Now Boyle's going to try the same thing. Didn't get it down as low as Timothy did. Only thing this is going to do here is make it easy for Latham to win the stage if they keep battling. 2 to go this time by before we'll see the caution, Sean. I heard Boyles call it out on the radio. Smart driving for Oskar. Obviously, 1 more point for the stage win. Not really worth the risk of crashing that race car when you're both over 30 points to the good currently. So bad news for guys like Dakota Jorgensen, Kendall LeBron at the bottom. The guys that are already way ahead winning the stage that essentially you needed to win, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, if you consider where the finish positions are. Oh, and Justin Boyles down to the inside. He is going to try to make that move here at the last lap of this stage. It looked like Jensen may have gotten a little bit too loose there.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, a little bit of aggressive driving. Oh, about to repay the favor. Just what I was going to say. Staying on that bumper, just offset a little bit. It's going to make that car so loose in the corner. And now Jensen going to do the same thing. Boyles took a higher line, trying to create separation from Oskar. So for the guys that may not know at home, when you go into a corner like that, and just to touch on it, Timothy Latham wins stage 1, Justin Boyles 2nd, Oskar Jensen 3rd, Zach York 4th. But when you go into a corner like that, Sean, and you're just offset of the bumper on either side, you're sharing your air, like your nose air, with the car in front of you, which adds more air than they would typically have. it's going to cause that loose feeling, and I think that's what caused the little bit of a front-end push, rear-end snap of Oskar Jensen coming off of 4 that last time. Was Boyles was just so close. They were sharing too much air, which is good at tracks like Talladega, Daytona, but here at Kansas, it's not something that you want coming off of a corner with mushy tires.
And so we are under the competition caution here for the first stage. So congratulations to Timothy Latham on the first stage win, just extending his lead in the point standings even further. And what I was going to say before Justin Boyles was making that pass is with Jensen and Latham up front as far as they are, I mean, that essentially takes 2 spots away from everyone else. And so those final 6 have to race hard for 2 spots instead of 4.
Well, the unfortunate side of that, Sean, and let's say our guy gets it done in the KISS car and he punches his way in, okay? As of right now, if you just look at Oskar and Timothy's points to everyone else now, most everyone in the playoffs, if not everyone, just looking here, let me see before I say that. Everyone in the playoffs is going to get at least 1 stage point. Chad obviously getting the least. But Timothy and Oskar both got 10 and 9. Timothy got 10, putting him without other stage points, positive 38. Or positive 48, sorry. Oscar's going to get 9, putting him positive 43? Yeah.
He only got 8. He only got 8. Justin Boyles took second.
Okay, yeah. Boyles got second. So he'll be positive 42. That's good, because if you're at a 66-point advantage going in to Martinsville, the final race of this round, seemingly you should be locked in. But here's the kicker. If Boyles wins tonight, let's say we see LeBron win next week at Texas and Benjamin D win the following week at Martinsville, Sean, one of those 2 drivers will then not make the round of 4, the championship round. So those points are important, but I think this round, one of those 2 guys, whether it's Oskar or Timothy, have to take a win in order for the other to feel safe. So it's a little bit crazy to me to think that they're racing each other so hard when at the end of the day, the one thing that the other needs is one of them to get a win in order to solidify their opportunity to go to the final round. Because if we get 3 different winners that aren't Oskar or Timothy, one of them will not make the Final 4 at Phoenix.
And that is what makes this playoff system so much fun, is you just never know what's going to happen. The best 2 drivers in the league could be out.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I would go as far to say, with barring anything absolutely insane, one of these 2 drivers, Oskar or Timothy, will guaranteed make it. I mean, 38 points, that's a lot to throw away. I mean, it can be done, Sean. However, that's a lot to throw away, especially when they're finishing podium on the pages, or on the podium. Actually, let's go ahead and get Timothy Latham up here and just hearing word from Boyles. Let's interview Timothy Latham real quick.
Yeah, let's pull him up into the booth. And so, Timothy, great first stage there. You seem to love Kansas, and I got to tell you, we're loving the great bubblegum car there.
I appreciate it. I'm actually drinking one of those tonight, so it tastes pretty good. But yeah, the car feels great. It was fun battling with Oskar there at the end of the stage, and I think his car got a little tight. He was trying to find some speed on that seam. I know if you touch that seam, you get your car a little sideways. So once I saw him doing that, and he made a little mistake there in 1 and 2, I figured I'd capitalize on it and pull the old slide job on him there. But that was fun. Good stage win. That's 10 points. Stage wins really don't matter now that we're in the round of 8. So looking for as many points as I can get, and hopefully at the end of the day we can get this win.
Well, we won't hold you long. I know the pace car is going. 10 points goes a long way in sort of locking yourself in. Does it feel good being out front at a race that you led, we'll say, about 90% of the laps last time? Does it feel good knowing that the car is pretty stable here again?
Yeah, absolutely. It feels really good, and I know Oskar got a little bit faster since last time. He was but glad to see him up here, and hopefully we can keep him behind us.
All right, man. Well, we will get you right back down into your team so you can keep it going. Have a great race, man.
All right, appreciate it. I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Good luck, buddy.
So a nice little inside joke there in the Discord a little bit earlier today. There was a little chat about somebody saying, I'm just here to not get fined like some of the football players, basketball players do after a game. So a lot of fun. These guys are a blast to hang out with. They're a blast to watch. But let's get right back to racing, Brandon.
Yeah, and Timothy Latham. It's all fun in the Flashpoint camp. Boyles threw him a little under the bus there, saying, hey, interview Latham. He was just locked in and ready to go, so hopefully we didn't screw that up. But he takes us back to stage 2, racing at Kansas with a nice jump out front in the 5 car, looking to leave the guys behind him. Tim, blame Justin. He threw you under the bus, and I just went with it. We appreciate the interview, though. Good luck the rest of the race as you set sail in stage 2.
I think it's going to take a little bit more than an interview to rattle Timothy Latham, and he's proving that right now, jumping out to about a 0.4 of a second lead.
Yeah, the one thing I know for sure, there are a lot of cars that Timothy can see in his... Oh, Oscar! Loose off of 4 there. I do not know how he saved that race car. The man behind the wheel, super talented and super young, 18-year-old Oskar Jensen with a beautiful save that time off of 4, but... There's a lot of cars Timothy can see in his mirror, Sean. The one that rattles him, I think, the most, and I don't think it rattles him much, but I think it rattles him more than any other. The 51 car you see challenging for second. Oscar has been his shadow more than anyone else this season and matched his wins. Obviously, 3 playoff wins from Oscar. He's doing all he can to stick with the man that's tough to beat anywhere you go, Timothy Latham.
Going back a little bit further, so Zach York has also been kind of a thorn in his side all year long, and he is up there in 6th position right now, battling with his teammate, so struggling a little bit today, but he's one of those that he can turn it on at the last minute.
Yeah, and honestly, an ill-handling race car can be turned around quickly for Zach York, a stat I'm pretty proud of, and I have to throw credit to both Oscar and Timothy, but it kind of makes me feel good when I say it this way. In the iVCS truck series, I run the 18 truck. Timothy runs the 51, and Oscar runs the 46. Inadvertent teammates, if you will, the Kyle Busch Motorsports trucks. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the last 8 or 9 races have been won by one of us. Of course, I only hold 1 win. Oscar holds 2, and Timothy holds the rest of those. I know David Duke got a win in there somewhere, but Timothy and Oscar have been the front of the pack. Honestly, my win wouldn't have come without Oskar Jensen. So those guys know how to get it done in every series that they find themselves in. And that's why they're the top 2 here tonight. And right now, Boyles, I don't know if he can hear the stream as it goes, but he's tired of hearing us talk about Oscar Jensen. He's searching for the lead in that 8 car, Sean.
He is going for 3 in a row in that KISS paint scheme, and so that is his lucky go-to car. And here he comes, taking the lead away from Timothy Latham.
Yeah, and I see out in the chat, LM said, go Zach York, number 49. Car not handling for Zach like he wished it would right now, but I'm sure he will rebound before this thing is over. Still over about 120-some laps to go here, but right now, everyone chasing the Flashpoint cars, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Here comes Oscar, still driving the premier private car service car, charging back into the group of the Flashpoint racing cars, Sean. He's not letting this thing go away easy, and he can't stand seeing Flashpoint ahead of him.
So because Oscar's on a 1-car team, so really doesn't have any help out there on the track. I know a lot of guys in the league like him. He's a good guy, a fun guy to be around, that sort of thing. But he just doesn't have any teammates out there on the track, and so a lot of times he is up there doing what he's been doing all season long, all by himself.
And honestly, there for a while he was a part of the Arrows. He did run with the Arrows for a while, but much to what Sean said, he's ran most of this season by himself. A single car team. I think Robert Montgomery, the owner of that team, ran a few races in the league. But aside from that, Oscar has been solely by himself in the Montgomery Motorsports 51 machine. And if you're still in the playoffs, if you're still alive today, that's got to be scary, Sean, because, if you look, Flashpoint, the 5, the 8, the 24, the 9, all relatively teammates. I know more of an affiliate, type deal with the 9 car of Chad Genningsman. You've got the Arrows, The 49, the 97 are the two cars still running in the playoffs. Teammates have, been big, but when you talk about the top runners, as you said, Oscar, a single car team, got to be scary, because if you have help here on the racetrack, if you're Oskar Jensen, it just makes you so much better. Now, I know he's good friends with Benjamin D and Zach York, the Flying Arrow machines, but not technically teammates. So when it comes down to it, Oscar doing it all on his own. And I think in a couple of weeks, Sean, teammates go out the window because everyone trying to do it all on their own at Phoenix. Obviously, the driver with the head start in that aspect is Oscar. He doesn't have to worry about, beating his teammates. It's a one-man band out there right now.
Yeah, keep in mind, the next 3 races that we have, so Texas next week, then Martinsville, and then the championship is at Phoenix, which is technically a short track, but it runs like a mid-range track like this.
Yeah, and honestly, there's so much. Let's talk about that for a second, Sean, because it is coming up. It's a big occurrence. Obviously, they're going for gold in that race. That's the final dagger left standing. You talk about it, being a mile racetrack. That's where Zach York has found his success. Shorter racetracks this season. Timothy Latham, the last time, though, led all 207 laps, wire to wire, at Phoenix. So, a couple of the guys that have been strong all season, looking forward to that. Oscar has proven there's not a track in this season that he can't win on. Those are probably 3 of, a lot of favorites. In my opinion, and I'll ask yours as well, Sean, and if you're in the chat, I encourage you guys to state your final 4. Mine, I think, is Latham, Boyles, Jensen, and Benjamin D. Those are my final 4.
I like that final 4. I'm going to tell you somebody that I'm going to put in instead of Boyles. I'm going to put York in there. And the reason that I'm going to put York in there is he just does just enough to stay in that top 3, top 4. And the way the cut line is right now, he's going to get in there, I think.
Yeah, and I totally respect it. The reason I said Boyles, as we've seen, he's been the guy, the mile-and-a-half guy. 2 of the 3 races left in this, or 2 of the 3 races in this round. Obviously, here tonight, he's running second at Kansas, a mile-and-a-half. We go to Texas next week, a mile-and-a-half. I just think he takes one of those wins and punches his way in, obviously having to leave someone out. If by chance Boyles finds victory lane here tonight, it would be, amongst York, Benjamin D, those guys battling for the final spot. And honestly, Sean, we could be totally wrong. Maybe Boyles nor Zach York make it. Dakota Jorgensen, Kendall LeVron, those guys back in the cut line right now could upset everyone. Never count out anyone that's left, but those are our picks. Just of what we've watched this season, I think, Timothy told me more than anything else, this was the round he was most comfortable in. As long as I've known him, which has been about 8-9 years, I would have assumed last round fit his style, but he's assured me that this was his round, if any of them were his round. So we'll see what can happen here. Obviously, one driver tonight, unless it's a non-playoff driver, which we don't have many of those in the field, someone's going to punch their ticket into the final round.
But just remember, one bad race is all it takes for that 37-point lead to just be washed away.
Yeah, and honestly, that's, he said in his interview, he's not really worried about winning stages. If he takes a second place, that's more points than he'd have in a 5th place. So stage wins aren't as important here in this round with only 8 remaining. So anything can and will happen. Obviously, right now, as we close in, to go about 30 laps, I'd say, 33 laps. In this stage, Timothy trying to capitalize and take away the ability to erase that lead right now. Obviously, if he can punch his way in here in about 110 laps, it won't matter his point lead. But just as Sean said, one bad race, one slip up here with his teammate, and that lead could be gone.
Saying Ted pulling number 54. So let's take a look. So Ted got into a little bit of an incident early. He lost that front end of the car, so he is out there. He is still on the lead lap, but he's a little bit slower than everybody else right now. But if we get some cautions, then he's going to have a chance to get that car fixed up a little bit more.
Yeah, and if they keep racing the way we've seen early in this race, Dana, don't worry about that damage on the 54 car because there's going to be a lot of these guys join them. A lot of close racing going on early, much like you see here between Boyles and Latham. Just everybody vying for that top spot up front. Ted back a little bit now, but he's safe. Plenty of time to blow that 54 car up if an incident was to happen ahead of him. A safe spot on the racetrack. I know he'll never give up until lap 190 is over. Right now, just kind of hanging out, riding around. What Ted Pullen likes to do, he likes to be there at the end. And even with a little bit of damage, tonight could be his night.
Right now, Justin Boyles trying desperately to get right there on that rear quarter panel just to make Timothy just loose enough that he can pass him.
Yeah, and honestly, this goes to show a lot about the set on the 5 car because we saw, Boyles was able to do it to Oskar, now able to do it to Timothy, and it worked! That's exactly what Justin Boyles wanted to do, just upset that car with the air, and the lead has been taken away. So perfectly executed move by Justin Boyles there, as he also trying to maximize the points here tonight. Right now, I think he and Latham would be even if this is how the stage finished, both with a first and a second in a stage. So obviously Timothy likely okay with second, but he's trying to repay the favor. Hey, buddy, I've seen you do it a few times. Let me upset your car that way.
Well, that was amazing driving. It was amazing driving by Timothy to keep that thing off the wall. That was so close to the wall as he was just sliding around. Don't think he ever touched it, though.
No, I think he kept that 5 car clear of the wall. And, a lot of people ask. I've been asked this question a lot, know the answer, and I've been able to answer it. So I'll put it out there for everyone else to know. A lot of people think, with Timothy's driving style and his ability that he's got one of the top-notch dollar wheels in the league. Timothy currently runs on a G9. Oh, is that Oskar getting loose back there?
Yep.
But as I was saying back up front, nice save by Oskar. Timothy runs on a G920, a Logitech G920 wheel. So, I know a lot of guys prefer their expensive wheels. Justin Boyles!
Oh no! He was coming in a little bit too hot into the pit lane, and then he just goes spinning, taps the front of the car on the wall, which is going to cause some damage. No yellow flag, still under green, but he may get a penalty there for unsafe pit entry.
He will indeed with hitting the grass, so can't really tell from the shot there, but did he lose the front end of that race car?
No, he's still good.
So, excluding the penalty, a lot of cars now on pit road. Timothy coming down, Benjamin D, Zach York, Kendall LeBron, Greg Edney, all on pit road. So Boyles trying to make the strategy call, just overcooked it a hair. Not really what you want to do at Kansas, but if there's anybody that'll battle back from it, it'll be Justin Boyles in that 8 car. Likely, maybe not a lot of damage. Got it woed up, but Oskar Jensen staying a little long. Looks like he might come this time, though. He does make his way to pit road, so I think that leaves PJ Engelkens as our race leader coming around to lead another lap here in this season. PJ had a couple of close opportunities, had things went his way just a hair more. He'd have found victory lane at Pocono instead of Kendall LeBron, but never giving up is PJ Engelkens, the much, like we see everyone here in the iVCS that stuck it out through the season, playoffs or not. Much respect to those guys. It's so easy, Sean, to hang it up, when things don't go your way, but these guys out here racing each and every week, trying to get better, and I respect them more than anything for that.
Well, the bad news for Justin Boyles is with that incident that he just had, that's definitely going to drop him back a long way. The good news is that if he can remain in the position he's in right now, then he will likely be the lucky dog when we get the next caution.
Yeah, and that's barring that it doesn't come out right now, because Timothy Latham technically holds it. I think PJ's coming to pit road right now, so Timothy may... Yeah, PJ coming to pit road. Timothy may get his lap back, and honestly, Boyles will be close to getting his back. Don't think he lost all that much time the way it was looking there, Sean.
But he had to go. He actually had to come back into the pits because he drove through.
40-second hold, if I'm not mistaken, on that 8 car. So
yeah, we'll take a look.
might be 26 seconds, but I wanted to say it's a 40-second hold that he'll face here, and that's going to be 2 or 3 laps on the racetrack.
We will keep an eye on that for everybody, but he is in his pit box right now. And so up front right now, Ted Pullen leading a couple laps for everybody, so that ought to get the fans some love out there.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that they like to see, the 54 car out in front of this field. Ted Pullen, classic Pepsi car that we've seen a lot out of Ted Pullen this season. My favorite Ted Pullen paint scheme as he continues to lead this thing. And really, you know, Sean, with not being in the playoffs, he doesn't have a whole lot to lose. Stay out here, lead some laps, and maybe if by chance, I don't think he can stretch it, but if he can stretch it to the end, and he's the leader, he takes stage points away from someone else. So I'm not really sure, though. Has Chad Genixman pitted, Sean?
Chad Genixman back on lap 75. And so his tires are about 9 laps older than everyone else's. So he came in extra early.
Okay, so he's got about a 5-second lead over Timothy Latham if Ted does not make it to the end of the stage. So that'll be your race for the stage if Ted does pit here. Obviously, Timothy going to run much faster lap times than either of these guys. If Ted can make it, I don't think there's any way that Timothy catches him. So it's just a matter of how much fuel is inside of that 54 car here, wanting to steal a stage win in the playoffs. And primed for that opportunity right now. Still has about 20 laps to go before he gets there, though, Sean.
Not sure that's going to happen. That's just a few too many, I believe. If you take a look, Genixman is only on 15-lap old tires here. Of course, Latham, York, Jensen, they're only on 6-lap old tires. So, but I see LeVron down there at the bottom. It looks like he went 62 laps at one point. So this might work out for Ted.
Yeah, obviously Ted going to give it, you know, everything he's got. I won't say what Dana said, but Dana, you're exactly right. That's where the 54 car is right now at this point in the run. And if he can make it, it's going to pay off for him. I tell you what, I'd run that thing dry at this point. Nothing to lose but the lead. Got to take the opportunity when it's presented to you.
Back just a little bit further. So second place right now, Chad Genixman. He is 1.5 seconds ahead of Timothy Latham, and Timothy Latham is closing extremely fast.
Yeah, but the one thing that I want to look at, you know, about 4 laps have went by. 4 laps ago, Chad was 15 seconds behind Pullen. Now he's only 12 behind. So by my quick math, he'll get close to Ted if he can make it, but I don't know if he'll have the time as long as Ted can continue under full power. Ted might actually make this work if he has the gas to stretch it all the way. And honestly, Timothy,
Chad's not the problem.
Yeah. Timothy will be likely the problem, and unfortunately for Ted Pullen and his fans, Timothy not going to be the guy to say, you know what feels good? Not running Ted Pullen down. He's going to be hammered down trying to win stage 2 after his stage 1 win. But 11 laps, if he remains a second faster than Ted, he'll get there easily. But if anything holds Timothy up on his quest to Ted Pullen, it'll be fine.
And you can see the number 54 car on the right side of the screen coming up towards the top of that map. That is Ted Pullen. You can see the number 5 car in blue on the far right side. That is the distance between second and first place right now. So Ted's got a good little lead on him.
Yeah, it seems so far, but if you watch the live scoring, every time it ticks by, it seems like Latham's so much closer. Hopefully, I tell you what, for Marianne Cornell, who joined us, for Dana Marie Chambers, I'm sitting here with my fingers crossed that maybe that 5 car just gets a little slower before he gets there. I want to see Ted Pullen win this stage, and I assure you that if he does, we will have him on deck for interview. We won't miss a moment of his stage win. Just seeing now, looks like he's coming to pit road though, so maybe not going to happen at the moment. Timothy Latham will reassume the lead here late in stage 2.
Definitely one of the crowd favorites, and just absolutely love watching him race out there. Such a good guy, and can't wait to see what he does next season.
Yeah, I think he's learned a lot this season that will carry him a long way, you know, whether it be with the iRacing Virtual Cup Series or another league. fixed or open. I mean, he's proven. I will give you guys an update. I don't know if Ted's shared this information with you guys, but speaking earlier of the iRacing Virtual Truck Series, if you will, I'm going to double check right now before I say it. Ted Pullen, as of right now, in a transfer spot in that series to lock himself in to the Final Four of the championship race. So, he's with some stacked names. David Duke, Timothy Latham, both heading up that, as well as Alex Hendry. But Ted Pullen in a transfer spot in that league. So I don't know if he's let you guys know that, but he's run very well in that Truck Series league. Still alive in the playoffs over there. Unfortunately, currently not broadcasted. But he's kept himself alive, and he's impressed crap out of me this season.
Yeah, like I said, a lot of fun to drive, or to watch drive, and then just having the fan support that he has out there, his whole family watching and always participating in the chat. We absolutely love seeing you guys here. We appreciate that.
Yeah, each and every week, that's one of the things I look forward to most is the Ted Pullen fans. And it's not a good broadcast for me if Ted Pullen's in the race and I don't see Dana Marie Chambers and Marianne Cornell out there. I mean, they're here every week. They have been for a long time. And honestly, as Sean said, that means the world to us that, he's got that kind of fan support. Because I find it hard to, get my wife to say, hey, I'm racing tonight. I've got a shot to win. You going to watch? And she's like, maybe. She'll tune in for about 3 or 4 minutes. You guys sticking out the whole time. And I love to see it. I love to see you guys out here with us.
Well, looking back out there on the track, so Timothy had a 2-second lead on Oskar Jensen. Oskar has cut that to 1.39, and so Oskar is on his way.
Yeah, an update on Justin Boyles as well, who was running in second position, still 1 lap down, back in the pack. I think, though, holding the lucky dog, if they don't know, Dakota Jorgensen, Ted Pullen, Philip Loy, all ahead of Boyles for lucky dog, so not what you want if you're Justin Boyles. Right now, it's hard, Sean. If you're the only car 1 lap down, you can pass the field. But it doesn't matter if you're a lap down and they're not, because you're not gaining positions. That makes it hard to accrue any stage points when they're needed so badly here and now, especially for anyone not Oskar or Timothy.
Well, not only that, Justin Boyles is outside of the stage points completely right now. He's in 11th position, and he's going for the pass on Philip Lloyd to get into that top 10 so he can get at least 1 stage point, going 3 wide.
Yeah, and that just shows you right there, some guys, if that would have been sooner than I was about to say, some guys that have, had a little bit of trouble. Richard Springer. He was at 3 wide in the middle with Richard Springer, who's been a little loose all over this racetrack. Philip Lloyd not having the night he would like, but he needed the stage point. He knew he needed the stage point, and he put the car right in the middle. Didn't even think about it and perfectly timed it because we saw Richard Springer knock the wall down the very next corner. Unfortunately, though, I think his quest, I just want to look. Sean, if by chance, can we get the track map back on the screen just for a moment there? I want to see. So we see the 8 car on the left-hand side of the screen. Lucky Dog right now, I think, is held by Ted Pullen, if I'm not mistaken.
Dakota Jorgensen, actually, I believe.
Okay, so slightly either way, both right there. You see him at the top, about to come by the middle of the backstretch now. Boyles just now in turn 1. So that's the race for the Lucky Dog. No way, in my mind, does Boyles get to them for the Lucky Dog. So those are also 2 more stage point opportunities. Honestly, Ted, if he can just catch Dakota here, Ted Pullen will be your guy to hold the Lucky Dog. I see Robert Montgomery, the guy we spoke about earlier, owner of that number 51 machines at Montgomery Motorsports number 51. I agree with you, Dana Marie, as well. Ted absolutely is one of a kind, never quits. He's become, I don't even know if he knows this, I've become a big fan of Ted Pullen over the, this season as well as the iRacing Virtual Truck Series. Patrick York also joining us in chat saying, let's go, Zach York. Definitely has an opportunity, but I think, Robert, this one's more leaning your way, right? The fastest car on the track over the, the previous little run here has been that Montgomery Motorsports number 51. He's continuing to chip away at the lead on Timothy Latham, and right now it sets at about half a second.
Yeah, you can see down there on the bottom of the screen. So Jensen was gained half a second, then 0.2 of a second, 1/10 of a second, half a tenth of a second, now almost 2/10 of a second. So he is on the move, definitely tracking down Timothy Latham. But is it enough? We've got 3 laps to go until the end of this stage.
Yeah, and honestly, Timothy's going to give it all he's got here and now. Good news for you guys out there, Marianne, Dana, Ted Bullen, right now, the guy holding the lucky dog position. He has gotten around Dakota Jorgensen, so if he can just hold on to that, he'll be back on the lead lap here with the pit strategy that he chose. Obviously, newer tires going to prevail for him, but Sean, one thing I want to touch on, and I hate to say it, especially because I know my guy's watching, Jason Tripp, right now, we are on lap 109. He still holds the fastest lap time in this race at a 29:40. I hate that he found the trouble that he found early in this thing.
Yeah, and he is out of the race completely. He has left the race lobby. So Jason Tripp is out. But yes, he was holding the fastest lap. If only we could go back and see what that 91 could have done for a full race.
I honestly think it'd have been scary here for these boys. It could be the 5, the 51, and the 91 coming down to end this stage here. But I believe Timothy going to hold that for a moment. I hate the Tripp had to live in a shoulda, coulda, woulda here tonight, because his best finish of the season this season, Sean, was at Kansas the first time. So we know he knows how to get around this place better than a lot of people. I wish we could have seen what would have been, but there's always next time.
And so here we come to the finish line for the second stage. And so Timothy Latham will take stage 2 as well as he took stage 1.
And waiting for the cross the line, Ted Bullen. So he made it through with the lucky dog. The one thing, Sean, that I have to say about that run, Timothy Latham better work on that race car here in a second. That was a 55-lap run, but Oskar ran him down. We're about to start an 80-lap run where Oskar will have plenty of time to track down the 5 machine.
Yeah, you saw at the bottom of the screen there for a while that Oskar was consistently better every single lap. And so if that would have gone another 5 laps, that would have been Oscar's stage.
Yeah, and that's the bad news for Timothy Latham. Not only is this stage here going to go 5 more laps, but it's actually going to go 25 more laps. So, obviously, obviously a little bit of a different strategy going to take place here, because they're not going to pit as early, so the run will kind of equalize. It'll actually turn into 2 40-lap runs. Still yet, I think Oskar holds the upper hand.
All right, so we are back under caution for this stage. So congratulations once again to Timothy Latham, and we will let everybody get pitted. And then, we're going to switch this up a little bit. Yeah, we talked to Timothy the last time around. We might get Oskar in here just to kind of see what's going on with him, see what he thought about that last run.
Yeah, and I definitely think that's a good idea. Just to see the other side of it. Obviously, we know what Timothy's plan is. He's maximized what he's got so far. 20 stage points so far. So, that's going to open up that lead about 1 point more right now than he did, than he had before, because Oscar's got a second and a third. Timothy's got a first and a first. So, obviously, the difference of a few points. Actually, I think that would actually be 3-point difference that Timothy's going to gain there. 20 to what would be 17. Yeah, it's about a 3-point difference. So Timothy doing all he can. Obviously, not really the concern being Oskar right now, but they're racing for as many points as they can. And actually, Sean, Oscar's going to win the race off pit road.
Well, and maybe that's what he needs, is just some clean air to stay out there out front. So let's see if we can get Oskar up here into the booth. He just jumped into the Discord, I believe, just for us, so we sincerely appreciate that. So Oskar Jensen, Man, what a great race so far. We appreciate you jumping in the Discord, man. We think that it might have been just for us, and if so, then we certainly appreciate it. But what do you think is going to happen in this next stage?
I think it's going to be a lot of what you've seen already with the Stage 1 and Stage 2 racing. It's going to be a battle of who can save the tires the longer run and just keep off that wall.
Well, Oscar, I do have to say, buddy, you did me a big favor a couple weeks ago. You pushed me to arguably the biggest win of my iRacing career. I need you to do a favor for me. Now, I picked Timothy in this race, but I need you to go out here and win this thing. I want to interview you as the race winner at the end of this thing, buddy. Do you have what it takes?
You know, we made some good adjustments there under a green flag, which allowed us to close in on Timothy there. I'm not sure if he took adjustments or tires or not, but we're going to try our hardest and keep making adjustments as needed. And, yeah, we'll try our best to go out and win this thing for you.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Well, I know that we were showing the lap times for the previous 7 or 8 laps, and you had Timothy beat every single lap. So is that just the adjustment that you made, or is that maybe? I mean, what do you think that was?
That's more than likely probably the adjustment I made. It's a little bit more icy and sketchy at the beginning of the run, but it should improve this car like you just seen.
Sounds good, man. Well, we will let you get right back to it. Buddy, congratulations on a good stage, and we will see you at the end.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good luck, buddy.
Yep.
All right. So Oskar Jensen, always a fun interview. Every guy in here, and let's just be honest and real here for a second. So, because we're never real before, right? No, but every single guy in this league is so much fun to interview and so much fun to talk to, even outside this league and everything. All these guys, genuine characters. We just love seeing them out here on the racetrack. This is one of my 2 favorite leagues to broadcast.
Yeah, and honestly, you know, I've got a lot of friends in Mid-South Madness, and, you know, I have a lot of fun with those guys. But when it boils down to it, you know, I can come into this league and, you know, I can around in the Discord and I can joke around with just about anybody. I love being down there in Flashpoint and joking with those guys because they're all so competitive. And, you know, obviously I love Oskar Jensen as a person, as a driver. And just as you said, man, there's so many fun guys to have fun with here in this league. So I wish them all the best of the luck, the rest of Kansas and the rest of the playoffs. But Oskar Jensen, Sean, get us going with Oskar Jensen.
All right, pace car is going to dive off. Oskar Jensen can go at any moment, and he doesn't wait very long. He takes off Benjamin D right on his tail. Benjamin D will pass Timothy Latham on the inside. Timothy Latham trying to make the crossover move.
Yeah, the only thing that done was made it harder for Tim to get back alongside of that 51 for the lead. Luis Angel Lopez out in the chats. What happened to Dakota J? Just not really been Dakota's night. I mean, we got loose one time off of like middle of the backstretch getting into 3, but hasn't really had the night that he wanted. He'll charge up early in the run to the front, but it seems like it's more of a short run set, Luis. So just a little bit of a miss for Dakota so far.
So Benjamin D up in the front of the race. Timothy Latham diving down to the inside to try to take that position on the backstretch.
Yeah, and I think there, Ben thought that Timothy wanted the outside. Timothy said, nah, I'll take the bottom. So the Flying Arrows right now coming alive. Patrick York, I'm sure. Claudel, I'm sure, is out there as well. Claudel D, as we'll call him. I know Benjamin told us last week that a lot of his family watches regularly. So you guys are out there. The Arrows coming alive right now. Trying to equalize what Oskar and Timothy have done so far this race. Sean, let's talk for a second, though, about this final stage. It's going to be a little bit different and honestly has to favor Oskar Jensen because, you know, we've seen so far, going back to stage 1, we had a caution after about 10, 12 laps was our second caution, so they ran just 30 laps. And then in stage 2, they ran about 30 laps, and then they took tires and ran about 15. However, this stage, they're going to run a full fuel run and a full fuel run to the end. So something different than we've seen so far, but you have to favor that 51 car who's had the best, of course, and longer run has kind of went in his favor.
Yeah, well, just based on that last fuel run, we were looking at between 35 and 40 laps. And so now this stage being, we say 80 laps, but technically it's going to be about 75 laps because we had a bunch of cautions for the stage. But even then, if you separate that out, that's 37 laps each run. And so it's tough to save fuel when people are all over you, just like Zach York is all over Timothy Latham right now.
Yeah, and honestly, I see Oscar up on that high side. He didn't go down to the bottom in this stage. Like, I know this is the final stage, but we'll refer to it as this stage. He hasn't went down to the bottom yet. So what that tells me, Oscar's up there where he knows he has to lift a little bit more. He doesn't have to turn as much. So not only is he saving tires, Sean, but because he's getting out of the gas more than the front three, he's saving more fuel. Likely going for the long run here versus the short run. And of course, a caution will pretty much throw that out the window. But right now, I think that's being the game played right now. Just kind of taking it easy. And as I say that, he charges back up behind Zach York. Back to the chat. Luis says, tough break. Let's hope he gets back on the lead lap. Yeah, he's had a little bit of issues, just a little behind. I think he should have been Lucky Dog. But Ted Pullen passed him at the end of stage 2. That's who it was. So just outside of Lucky Dog, I think it was like 2 car lengths separating him and Ted. Let's Go Ben from Bandit Productions. So the Benjamin D fans out there now. Obviously, if you're a Justin Boyles fan, he's back on the lead lap. He had to start at the rear, and I think he took the wave around, so he's on older tires than these guys. So just trying to take it a swing in his favor. But Sean, maybe now, if the damage isn't bad, I know we saw him hit the pit wall. If the damage isn't bad, he may be in a solid spot here where he takes tires early in this stage, gets behind, then runs long, and then pits again where he has the newest tires. So maybe the opportunity's there. Maybe Boyle still isn't out of this thing like we once thought.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, anything that happens out on the track, especially in the first 2 stages, can either be used to your advantage or your disadvantage, and you have to adjust all the way through the race. And that's what makes this stage racing so great, is you have to make those adjustments, not just in the car, but also strategically as well. And so that's what Justin Boyles is trying to figure out right now. He's 10 seconds behind the lead pack. Okay, when does he pit? Uh-oh. Dude, I thought I saw some smoke. It's somebody clicking out and coming back in. I think Kendall LeBron is having some issues.
Yeah, I heard Benjamin key up there a moment ago and let him know he was blinking. He's having a little bit of server issues here connected to this race. But I want to turn back to one thing. It means a lot to me. Robert, first I want to say I miss racing with you on Thursday nights, buddy. I know things didn't go the way we thought they would. It was fun racing with you while we could. But Robert Montgomery, Sean, has chatted in and said, excellent broadcasting, gentlemen. We appreciate that. We enjoy every series we broadcast. But as we said earlier, this is one of our favorite series to broadcast. Obviously, I've got to speak to you momentarily. I do appreciate your driver. He's become one of my favorite iRacing drivers. But yes, Luis, that kiss machine is beautiful.
Well, right now that kiss machine is falling even further behind. So 12 seconds back, he's all by himself out there. So while the guys up front are enjoying kind of a draft and a lot of hard racing, Justin Boyles is just trying to stay on this lead lap and hoping for a caution.
Yeah, and honestly, just looking here, he's not really... Let me see. Actually, just heard Boyles is pitting right now. He'll be pitting that 8 machine, but it doesn't look like he's down on power, Sean, so I think you're exactly right. I think the difference is going to be just the draft. What these guys are picking up in draft speed, Boyles has lost because he seemed pretty consistent, about 182 coming off the corner. So right now, I think Timothy Latham's running actually just about the same speed as he gets down in here, 177 to 182 is what he's acquiring as far as speed-wise. So a lot of the same. Boyle's going to see, interestingly, how it plays out. If by chance, Sean, so we've been about 15 or so laps in this stage here. That means Boyles now can go 15 laps longer than the guys that pitted at the stage break. if we get a caution while Boyles is leading during the green flag cycle, everything then will be changed, Sean.
Well, even if we go green the entire time, so Boyles pitted on lap 128. Okay, so that's 62 laps away from the finish line. So theoretically, he could make it on one more stop, and some of these drivers out there on the track are going to be running out of gas at the finish line. If this thing goes green, white, checkered, then that might be Boyles' chance.
No, and you're exactly right. But more than that, the one thing that I want to say is, you know, they're basically pretty much anyone in the top is going to pit anywhere around, you know, 40 to 35, 45 to 35 laps to go, we'll say, you know, just based on what they can make it. Boyles now will pit after that with less laps to go and have fresher tires. So just by simple math, not overthinking it too much, 15 lap newer tires than these guys. And, you know, we saw what he was able to do earlier in a little bit of damage where he had 9 lap newer tires than everyone else, and he was able to charge up and take the lead for a little bit away from Timothy Latham. So we know on newer tires that 8 car is just as fast as, you know, everyone else here that we're seeing. Not out of it yet, sitting about 1 lap down, probably about a lap and a half when it's all said and done, but brand new tires on that one machine that is 1 lap down currently.
Yeah, but keep in mind that what happened with Justin Boyles was self-inflicted. So coming down into pit lane, he spun, he hit the wall when he did that, and then had to come back through pit lane another time. And so it was a self-inflicted wound. Can he dig himself out of it?
Yeah, and I'm wondering if, man, that's going to be tough for Dakota Jorgensen now, because I think Boyles will run him down with ease, seemingly take away the lucky dog if we do get a caution before it cycles through. But, you know, the race for the lead right now, we've got a new player, Sean. I remember early in the broadcast, and he's not really a new player, but he's been a guy we haven't really mentioned. That's Zach York. You know, you said earlier in the broadcast, when it comes to Zach York, he can turn it on at any point and just go. And that's been the case right now. You know, he's been able to just go for it. And he's here challenging for the lead pretty much out of nowhere from what we've seen tonight, Sean.
Now, keep in mind the story on Zach York. So he went off to college. We didn't think that he was going to be in the playoffs. Decided that he could make it work. So he came back into the playoffs. So for a while there, Timothy Latham and these other guys were thinking, man, we don't have to deal with Zach York at all. And then Zach York says, I'm coming back. And you could just hear everybody say, crap.
Yeah, and I mean, that was, I joked with Tim, you know, shared a meme, and it was of Timothy, and you know, prior to Zach York's return, pressure's off, feeling good about the championship, and shared it after Zach York's return, and I can't repeat the words that went along with that meme on stream, but obviously a lot more pressure now that 49 not only is here, but in the playoffs still yet in the round of 8, so it's got to be worrisome, much as, you know, we both kind of agreed that he would have a say. Not sure if he'd get it completely done as far as the Final Four, but he would have a say in what happens here at the end. I did hear Ted Pullen brought his car to pit road as well, so strategy starting to take play, come out into the fold here, and just thinking, Sean, obviously I think Ted's going to have to make another pit stop. 50 laps would just be such a stretch here that honestly would end up resulting in that 54 car being at R&D after the race, getting tore down. Oh, there's a caution.
Oh boy, and everything has changed. I believe that's Kendall Levron down there on the bottom of the track. And so he took a tow. Let's see if we can find out what happened with a wreck replay.
I heard out. I don't know if he ended of the race or if he was out of fuel.
Well, we will find out very shortly here with the wreck replay. And here comes LeBron on the inside in that number 28 car. Oh, this is going to be a hard hit. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that is going to be the end of the race for him.
Yeah, and I'd say, trying to think of a smart way to put it here. Scary moment we'll go with for Ted Pullen there as he has to wrestle that car down to the apron quickly. for a rebounding Kendall LeVron. Man, that's such a hard impact. Likely about
huge hit.
175, 180 into that outside wall. Luckily, it's a sim. He'll be okay. He'll get a walk away from that one, but he has dropped immediately out of the race. He has went ahead and disconnected. So the driver with the lucky dog back to Luis, Angel Lopez, Dakota Jorgensen, going to be the lucky dog. So he'll be back on the lead lap and rejoining these guys here.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the guys that are staying out. So Dakota Jorgensen gets the lucky dog. Justin Boyle's staying out. He's only on 12-lap old tires. And so this is going to give Justin Boyles the opportunity to stay out there on the lead lap. However, his tires are 12 laps old now.
That's not what I'm concerned about when I think about Justin Boyles, Sean. What I'm concerned about, you're setting with 50 laps to go by the time we go back green. You have to pit again. And if you don't, if by chance you can save enough, you have to be super conservative. Justin Boyles does not. No matter how you shake it, Boyles will pit again. He can go as hard as that 8 car will allow him to go, pressure these drivers, pit and go as hard as he can go. He doesn't have to worry about fuel. But here for these leaders, they do. They have to be careful just how much they push it. As you see right now, ahead of Timothy Latham, Justin Boyles, Richard Springer, Ted Pullen, and Kendall LeVron's gone. So those are going to be the drivers taking a wave around here and now.
And so just kind of to double down on that, so yeah, everybody has to pit at least one more time. I don't think anybody can make it 50 laps. And I know that our scoring at one point said that Kendall LeVron made it 60, but you have to remember also that included, I believe, 2, if not 3 cautions in that time. So
I think also that could be just looking, could be his tires as well, as it was counting more than anything, being 62 laps on tires. Now, honestly, why he would have went 62 laps on tires, I'm not sure, because more than enough tires here tonight with the stages that they're running. You could essentially take tires, what is it, every 30 laps and be well okay, actually, and give you 2 extra sets. So about 25 laps you can afford to take tires. But cautions now, it looks as though Timothy is saving fuel. Everyone behind him not really up on that 8 car, likely pushing the clutch in, just coasting along. Justin down on the bottom. I'm not sure if he's just running the bottom by design or if he's trying to save a bit, Sean, but I think the strategy here for Justin, he gets back on the lead lap. He's got a little bit older tires. He runs it as hard as he can run, trying to equal out with these guys, okay? The moment he knows he's good to go to the end, so we'll say you give about 10 extra laps, so 30 to go maybe, 35 to go. You bring that 8 car to pit road and you just try to gain as much time on the leaders as you can, knowing when they pit again, you could cycle back to a lead somewhat like we saw Ted Pullen have earlier in this race, where he had stretched it out. He had about a 15-point lead, and the only thing that took that away, Sean, was him coming to pit road. So Boyles still very much in a good spot.
See, I'm actually going to disagree with you on this one, because I think that Boyles needs to basically run the car out of fuel on this run. And the reason I say that is if that happens, well, maybe not run out of fuel, but close. If that happens, then he's going to be pitting on about lap 172. Now, everybody else here has to pit around win. So, I mean, they're going to have to pit at least one more time. And so if he can stay out there longer than these other guys, there's a chance, slim, but there is a chance that he'll catch them under caution and be able to get that track position back.
Well, Timothy Latham about to take us back, green flag racing. And Sean, when it settles down, I'll have a rebuttal to that, and I'll tell you why. Actually, we'll give it here through the turn. Timothy going to get clean and clear. Zach York going to follow him through. I was going to say Patrick York. Likely excited about that restart from Zach York, but the reason I say that that's a bad idea, Sean, is if he runs that fuel long, these guys know they have to pit again. So what they can then do is when Boyles pits, now if by chance he pits early, these guys aren't going to pit early. They just took fuel and tires. But if he runs it late and gets anywhere in their wheelhouse, in order to cancel him having such a big lead, they too can just pit. And then it takes away any opportunity Boyles has to win. If they pit when he pits, it puts him right back where he was. You know, it puts him behind. So I think that's why he has to get in pit road much earlier than these guys and just go long. If he runs and, you know, let's say Timothy Latham, when Boyles does pit, he says, all right, I'm going to pit 6-7 laps. He just pits 6 or 7 laps earlier, and it takes away Boyles' opportunity. So that's what I hate, you know, to be in Boyles' spot is, you know, having to try to pit early, but you run it late, and you run it too late, and they pit with you. But now Zach York seemed a little closer from that other view, but he's challenging Timothy Latham. And the guy in third place, Sean, where did he come from? Chad Genixman up to third. Haven't got to say his name much all night, but here he is now, going for it. About 45 laps to go.
And Brandon and everybody out there in the audience right now, what Brandon just explained is the reason why he is a great racer and why I am a broadcaster.
Yeah, I mean, usually when oh, he's gonna get close though. Not happy on the driver chat. I will say, I just heard Dakota or Chad there a moment ago, not happy with the 2 times that the slide job happened, and ooh, man,
they are coming awfully close back there behind Timothy, and Oskar Jensen is looking to capitalize.
Yeah, Oskar Jensen, just don't mind if I do, boys. I'm coming through. But what I was gonna say is, you know, typically when Brandon Browning is in a race, you're not talking about him because he's at the back. It's because he deserves to be back there. Chad Genixman proving, hey, I've been at the back. You haven't said my name, but be ready to do so in the final 40 laps of this thing because he's in second place and he's going for it. I will say, though, right now, there's a few drivers on the track unhappy with the driver of the 49 machine.
Well, Chad is Mr. Consistency out there. I mean, he is always the one. He is the quietest guy on the track from what I can tell. But then all of a sudden, he's there on your back bumper, ready to take that spot away.
Yeah, and honestly, you know, I know that Marianne, Dana, you guys have watched a lot of these races, and you know, you see Ted doing his own thing. With what Ted has learned this season, that guy right there, the driver of the 9 car, that's what Ted Pullen's potential is pulling him toward. No pun intended. But, you know, it's pulling him toward the ability to be there at the end. He's learned all he can learn this season, and when he continues to run, this is what he looks forward to. He's learning every week. He's got the potential to run up front now, and he's showing that he can do that. And just his driving style is going to be much like Chad Genixman, who he hasn't went out. He doesn't have the flashiest numbers, but he's still alive in this championship, Sean. He's got an opportunity to steal it away from everyone.
And right now, these top 6 are all playoff drivers, and so they are really gunning for this first race of the round of 8.
Yeah, right now the biggest shakeup that could be, I can't remember right off where Chad fell in the cut line. I want to say 4th, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe he was 4 points back, if I remember correctly. You know what? Just really quickly, we will jump over and take a look. Yep, 4 points outside the cut line is where Chad Genixman is.
Yeah, so if by chance Chad can jump up here and win this race, it makes the transfer spots next week down to 3. And that's 3 of our front 4, 3 of the guys that we thought would win and make it in, or, you know, just transfer in. It goes from 4 guys doing that to 3 if Chad steals this win. Now, there's also the opportunity that if you look back and say maybe somebody like Benjamin D, who's inside the playoffs, you know, he then puts the pressure on the other guys. He was the 4th driver on the playoff list there. He would then put the pressure on, but the one thing, if you're a playoff driver, that's not Kendall LeBron or Dakota Jorgensen, you don't want to see Dakota charge up from 4th and win this thing, because he's the furthest away from making the playoffs right now, 14 points out. And if he makes it, Kendall's already left this race with a bad race. That pressure just becomes so much tighter like a vice for that final couple of spots. But Dana Marie Chambers, I agree with you. Look out next year, boys. The 54 will have a say in the playoffs next year for sure, no matter where he lands.
Right now, the guy talking all the talk and walking the walk, actually, is Timothy Latham out there out front. So only 0.3 seconds ahead. He has not been able to pull away like we thought he would on the short run.
No, and honestly, I wish I had the live lap lead stat on my scoring over here. He's got to be getting close to that number, and I don't have it anywhere on my screenshot. I don't know if you have it, but he's got to be. He's been out front for a while. He's got to be getting close. So that's got to be where you worry, is when Timothy Latham's this dominant. It's tough to just pass that 5 car. I will say he's strong, but I think the guy in 4th right now ain't in a hurry just yet.
And that guy right now is Oskar Jensen. And so, again, if he just saves his tires, he already proved that he's really good on the long run, and that's what we're gearing towards right now.
Yeah, and even though he's in 4th place, he's still less than a second behind Timothy. About 8.5 tenths of a second right now. He's just in striking distance. Hasn't used those tires. You know, we saw last run, he saved them. This run, he's pretty much been saving them. He hasn't, you know, if a guy come to him and tried to get by, let him go. He knows as we further into this thing, chances are, you know, someone amongst this top group, now I don't know who it'll be, when pit stops happen again, because I just don't think they make it on fuel, somebody's going to take no tires. And I think that somebody's got pink numbers right now, because he's saving them. And he knows if they have to pit with about 15 to go, if he takes just enough fuel to make it, he's got such a lead that maybe he can steal this one away with no pressure, Sean.
Well, I know some people out in the audience might be thinking, well, what about just 2 right-side tires? And we will say that is not a good idea here at Kansas.
I'm going to let you know that's the worst idea here at Kansas. You'd be better off on no tires than 2 tires, because your balance is just, as we've seen, you know, much of this race, your balance is wishy-washy, if you will, anyways. Ever so often, if you put 2 cold tires on the right side and you keep the scalding hot tires on the left side, or even vice versa, the balance of the car is just awful. And I think, you know, speaking in terms of mechanics issues from iRacing, that's something that they have to counteract, because obviously in real life we don't see that happen as much. Obviously, you know, a little bit of wheel spin, but that's something in the balance of the sim that they've got to change. Pretty much, Sean, unless, you know, you're at a select few tracks, Texas is one that I can think of, but outside of a lot of tracks, it doesn't really work to take 2 tires. You know, it's almost useless, if you will, to take 2 tires.
Now you'll see there on the bottom part of the track, that is PJ Engelkens. He just pitted, so he has brand new tires. So him passing Timothy Latham is not going to do anything for standings wise, and Timothy's just going to let him go because he's just got those super fresh tires.
You know, if it stays green, that might be a move right now. That's the move I expected Justin Boyles to make, who's really he's the last car on the lead lap, about 10 seconds behind the leader. I think that's the move he should have made right there, Sean. I just think right now you see how much faster he and Richard Springer are than the leaders. And Boyles was on the lead lap. You know, he could have pitted. He could have got the new tires, and this is all gap. If you think about it, Sean, if you think it takes exactly 1 lap to make a pit stop, you look at where PJ Engelkens is now. So let's say it takes 1 lap. Obviously, PJ's 2 laps down now, but it takes exactly 1 lap to pit. PJ Engelkens then has about a 2-second lead on Timothy Latham. Because
Timothy up in the wall.
He's going to lose. He's going to hold it for the moment. I was going to say he's going to lose the lead there, but those tires starting to go away. But you see the guy charging right now, not really Zach York. I keep getting him mixed up with Patrick York for some reason. But the guy charging, dangerous man in the field right now. Oskar Jensen putting the pressure on now Zach York for second place. But I think we might see some of these guys find pit road here just very shortly. Go ahead and do the thing, get the tires and just wrap it up. Just hammer down to the end, not have to worry about anything.
Out there in the chat, we got Jimmy saying, let's go 24, and you can do it. 24 saying go 24 as well. 24 is Dakota Jorgensen back there in 4th place right now. So he is still hanging in there. He's lost the draft, but he's hanging in there up there in 4th position.
Yeah, and to look back at some of the guys behind him, a couple points gained right now on Benjamin D, a couple points on Chad Genningsman, a couple points on Justin Boyle. So 4th place, a good spot for Dakota to be. I don't know if it'll be enough to equal out the equation to say that it'll transfer him in. If he currently has these type of standings, I think he needs just a little bit more. Not quite in a must-win situation, I guess, if you will. But obviously, you don't want to get all the points he can get. He would be another driver that I highlight saying, hey, pitting early is what we need to do. I'm not sure. I'm going to go back and look.
Justin Boyles and Chad Genningsman both pitted while we were speaking. So they are back out there on fresh tires now. They pitted back on lap 161, so just 3 laps ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought I heard Chad say pitting out there a moment ago. So Chad kind of backed out of that pack. I don't know if he lost the handle on the race car or if he just decided it was time to bring it in and wrap the thing up. Obviously, waited long enough to get himself fuel to the end.
Oskar Jensen. Oskar Jensen coming in.
This is what I was talking about, though, Sean. Oskar has put it inside of his window that Chad has pitted, Justin has pitted. They've decided to do the early thing. They were probably about, obviously, Justin was about 8 seconds behind Boyles, but a little bit less time behind was Chad. So they were sitting in a power move, spot by pitting that early. And now Timothy and Zach York both coming to pit road as well. Oh, Timothy. Uh-oh. Might have been a little bit fast.
We'll have to wait and find out, but looked like they both locked up the tires there. And so that means that Dakota Jorgensen right now will assume the lead. Of course, he still has to pit at least one more time.
Just taking a look real quick here, Sean.
But he is out there leading this thing by about 6 seconds now over Benjamin D. Benjamin D coming down into the pit road as well. And so Dakota Jorgensen trying to get everything he possibly can right now.
Do you happen to know right off the top of your head what pit road speed is here?
I do not.
If it's 50 mile an hour, Timothy's good. If it's 45, the 5 car will be back on pit road because he pitted at 50 mile an hour.
Well, we will find out extremely shortly if we see Timothy Latham going back down pit road once again. But right now, it doesn't look like he's coming down.
I will say the part that worries me as a Timothy Latham fan, Zach York pitted at 45 miles an hour. So unless Zach pitted a little slower than Tim might have sped.
Right now, Dakota Jorgensen a lap ahead of everybody. Now, of course, he is not pitted yet, but he has a full lap on every single person on the field. So whenever he does pit, we're going to find out exactly how fast all these guys can catch right back up.
Yeah, honestly, Timothy going to overtake Oskar now for the lead back, or well, what will be the lead when Oskar pit, or when Jorgensen pit. Sorry, I got my names mixed up there, but
no, that won't be the lead because Chad Genningsman is in second position, pitting just 5 laps before Timothy Latham and Oskar Jensen, and so right now Chad Genningsman is in the catbird seat.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to what I was saying, Sean. I think the early pit. So the strategy now for Chad, go as hard as you can go. Because when it cycles down, if there's no caution, it leaves you in a spot where Timothy has to be perfect. Timothy has to run him down. And He doesn't have that big of a lead, and I will say, just riding along with Timothy, Timothy's coming quick. But it was worth a shot nonetheless if you're Chad, who made a late race surge. He tried to get there. He's exiting 4 now, as you see, or actually, yeah, exiting 4 as you see across the line, and now Timothy crosses the line. So it's not that much of a gap, and it's continuing to grow. Now, the one thing that'll be huge here is if we get a caution here in the next lap or so, Chad will be back on the lead lap. Timothy would have to take a lucky dog. That's all dependent on what Dakota does. It looks like he may be coming to, no, he's going to stay up high here. I thought he may come to pit road there, but he did just elect to stay up high. And Timothy right now, just in terms of who he'll be racing outside of Chad Genixman, is Oskar Jensen about 3-4 car lengths behind Timothy. Zach York about 4 or 5 car lengths behind them. So the battle's shaping up to be relatively between whether or not they can run down Chad, who may have been saving his tires. He may not have been pushing it yet, waiting on them to cycle back to him. But right now, the man in control, if by chance he can make it, he needs it more than anyone. The fans in the chat right now about equal to those of Ted Pullen. It's Dakota Jorgensen and his fans. He wants to win this thing. He wants to go into the next race and not worry about his 14-point deficit. Right now, Sean, if he gets anywhere close to making it, he's got an entire lap to coast if he runs out of fuel.
And what better time to do it than right now? I will tell you that race between Chad Genixman and Timothy Latham heating up very quickly. Timothy has been about half a second better every lap.
Yeah, and man, you know, right now in the mind of Chad, you're racing to stay ahead of Timothy. If you're Timothy, you're racing to catch Chad. But if you're Dakota Jorgensen, you're going to spoil the party if you make it to the end.
There's Dakota now. Timothy Latham, Oskar Jensen, Zach York have all passed him, so they are all on the lead lap. And Zach York off the track. Oskar Jensen off the track at one point as well. We're going to have to go back and take a look at that.
I'm just going to take a speculation into this one right now. I think Zach York tried to force the position because I heard Oskar tell him that he was not clear.
We're going to take a quick look back and find out if we can see what happens here. Always good racing between these two. And you can see Oskar Jensen diving down to the inside. Zach York trying to pinch there, and they both go through the grass.
I tell you who enjoyed seeing that, Sean. That's Timothy Latham in that 5 car. If by chance he catches Chad, if Dakota has to pit, and he's actually caught Chad now. He's on the back bumper at Chad, but if by chance Jorgensen can't make it, he ain't got nothing to worry about anymore. There's a big gap back to the boys that just got involved in that incident.
And right now the gap to Dakota Jorgensen is 25 seconds. And so 25 seconds, if Dakota stays out, you can see that he's right there behind Timothy Latham. However, you will see very shortly what these lap times look like. 1.5 seconds per lap. 1.8 seconds. 1 second.
About 10 to go.
It's going to be close.
If Dakota can make it at this pace, there's not a shot. Timothy gets there. 24 laps to go. 24 seconds back. 12 laps to go. Even at 2 seconds a lap, he just barely gets there. So, Sean, let me see actually if I have the pit lap for Jorgensen. He would have to go 50 laps on.
He's out.
Right now.
Yep, coming down pit road. And so that will end that idea. And so Timothy Latham will come around, and he's got a nice lead on Chad Genixman right now. And Oskar Jensen, Zach York, they basically took each other out. Greg Edney is actually between Oskar Jensen and Zach York. So Greg Edney in the number 30 car, not in the playoffs, but he is sticking his nose in here. He is in the 5th position.
Waiting to see. Dakota, though, if by chance there's a caution, I know everyone's spread out except for a few cars. If there's a caution, Dakota, as long as he doesn't lose a lap, which he shouldn't, he'll be close, but he shouldn't lose a lap. Man, that would just be huge for him. He'd be right back in contention. Actually, he's still showing in the lead for me, but
no, he is.
He
is definitely. He's down in 7th position. He's about 21 seconds behind Timothy Latham. However, like you said, if there's a caution here in the next couple of laps, he's going to have enough time to catch everybody on brand new tires, and so that's what he's hoping for right now. Of course, everybody pretty well spread out. We'll pull up the track map one more time. You can see everyone has plenty of space out there. Nobody's really in trouble around each other. So that probably won't happen. But for Dakota Jorgensen, that is something that he was hoping for, and he had to take a shot, man. He had to go for it.
Yeah, and he was straddling the line, honestly, between do you go for it all versus throw it all away. You know, if you stayed out and you went for it, you could potentially throw it all away. And I was listening to the driver chat there. Okay. I was listening to what Timothy had to say there back and forth between him and Oscar. But, you know, for Dakota, if you went for it there and you ran out, you risk throwing it all away versus gaining everything all at once. So he had to straddle that line, decided now is not the opportunity. And I agree. The reason I agree is because there's still a lot of racing left to go in this round. You know, 2 more full races. I think he's going to make up a little bit of ground here based on he's led a lap. You know, he's got a few bonus points that some guys didn't quite get to do. Kind of lessen his gap back away from being the bottom cut guy. But glad to see that he did not throw it all away there, Sean.
So Oskar Jensen passing Chad Gunningsman for 2nd place. And so now it's Timothy Latham in first by 4 seconds. Oskar Jensen in 2nd. And we will see if Oscar can start to reel him in a little bit, but not sure he's going to get there.
No, he needs about a second a lap, honestly, to have 2 laps to pass Timothy. I know, you know, Timothy's likely saving his stuff right now, but I don't know if he's 1 second a lap saving. I'm going to tell you that Oscar's not saving anything. He just gave it all it had off at 2. He's going for it, but it's just going to come up a little short, I believe, as the gap's still about 4 seconds.
Yeah, if he's going for it, then Timothy is just loving life because he is actually putting even more distance there.
Yeah, and honestly, barring any caution, it's good to finally pick a race winner. The man looking to do it all at Kansas this season. You know, he's looking to mark his name next to Kansas.
Once again.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I was listening, not sure what Oscar was saying there. I know what it sounded like Oscar was saying. Oh, no. Let me look.
You have us on pins and needles.
Oscar's motor may be going away. And I thought that's what he said, and then Chad told him to keep clutching. He had a long time to give. I know he's not close on fuel. Maybe the motor going away in that 51 machine, John.
And that could have been partially because of that trip through the grass. You know, with the new damage model, going through the grass is not as safe as it used to be.
I will tell you, the motor is going slowly. He is not getting above 8,000 RPMs, even on the straightaway, pushing the clutch in when he starts to red line, just taking it easy, trying to limp that 51 machine to the finish line. Listening there again, clutch is in, coasting through the corners. Yeah, I think the motor's going away there. Actually, this time he's only about 7,800 RPM. Going to get up to about 8,000.
Yeah, and the one thing he cannot afford right now is for that motor to go out, because if so, then all these guys go past him. He would eventually end up in 8th position, which is a far cry from where he should be right now. So Timothy Latham, 2 laps to go, coming around to the white flag for Timothy Latham. And he has an 8-second lead on the entire pack. So it will likely be Timothy Latham unless some self-inflicted damage comes up here, but I don't see that happening. Timothy just going to bring it around nice and easy, and he is going to win the Tricky Tornado 285 here at Kansas, and he is going to earn his spot into the round of 4.
Oskar Jensen is round and into the inside wall backstretch. I will say, though, Sean, the scariest moment I can think of is for the second time this season, Timothy Latham snaps an 8-race winless streak at Kansas. Sean, the last time Timothy snapped his win streak at Kansas, he went back to back to back.
And if he goes back to back to back, that will still just get him into that final 4. But if anybody can bring it home, it's this guy. So great race for Timothy Latham.
Yeah, and he's about to burn that grape bubblegum machine down. We talked about it last week. He wanted to run this paint scheme here. It looked fast. It was fast. And he's finding his way right now back in the first driver into the championship for Sean. Don't worry about the points, because Timothy Latham will be there at Phoenix.
Great drive for the number 5, Timothy Latham. And second position, Chad Gunningsman. Third position, Dakota Jorgensen bringing it home. Zach York in fourth. Greg Edney, not in the playoffs, but still a 5th place finish. And then Justin Boyles battled his way back, and he ended up in 6th.
And actually, let me see. There we go. So 7th place going to be Benjamin D. 8th place, Oskar Jensen. The motor did go away. 9th place, PJ Engelkens. 10th place, Ted Pullen. 11th, Richard Springer. 12th, Kendall Levron. 13th, Philip Loy. And let me look 1 second, because I know he's still watching. The fastest lap of the race, the man that only got to complete about 14 of them, Jason Tripp, held the fastest lap time with a 29.397 was the exact time. One thing that I do want to update as well, Sean, Timothy Latham, the last time at Kansas, led 123 laps. Take a guess at how many he led here tonight.
It's got to be at least 140.
132 was the call, the number that he led. So not only did he match what he did, but he topped it with 9 more laps led here tonight. Obviously, we ran more laps tonight, but he led more. And that's where you start to worry. The guy's back on top, and he found victory lane.
Well, let's see if we can get a couple guys in here to interview. So let's talk to Dakota Jorgensen. So got a lot of fans out there in the audience, and brought it home in 3rd position. So let's pull him in here. Dakota, Sean, and Brandon up in the booth. How's it going, man?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Man, it is doing great right now, and we just love seeing you bring that number 24 home in 3rd place. Would have loved to see a little bit more, but hey, that's not a bad finish for where you're at right now.
I'll take it. I was hoping for a caution with that pit strategy, but I'll take a 3rd for sure.
Well, I've got to ask, Dakota, do you remember what I told you guys I wanted to see prior to the race? With the 3 of you being, the flashpoint, I know Chad's an affiliate, but I said I wanted 3 of you to be our interviews tonight. And, buddy, you guys got it done. We're going to interview the 3 of the flashpoint guys.
Yes, sir.
What does it feel like? I talked to you above all else. I wanted to pick you for the win. I just felt like you were going to have a solid win. And we talked, the broadcaster curse. Sean, that's something that took place before the broadcast. I didn't want to curse him. I felt like he was going to have a good run, and I even told him that. But what does it feel like now knowing with a 3rd place, you start to cut back into the deficit, and, you head to another 1.5 miles at Texas, and then you go to Martinsville. You think you can continue the roll and keep cutting in?
Hopefully. Texas is one of my favorite tracks on the sim, so hopefully we can build on the momentum of this third place and see if we can, get another top 3, if not a win out of Texas next week. As for Martinsville, that's not one of my favorite tracks on the sim. I'd say it's probably the least favorite that we go to. But you kind of gotta take the punches with the good stuff and the bad stuff. So go one week at a time and just focus on Texas and Martinsville when the time comes around.
That's all you can do, man. Just take it one race at a time. And out there in the chat, Luis Lopez says, great race or good finish, Dakota. So you do definitely have fans out there, man. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Is there anybody that you'd like to thank tonight before we let you get back to your team?
You guys for putting on the broadcast each week since you guys have taken over. Have done wonderful job. Love going back and watching the broadcast replays during the week. Justin for putting on the league and all the admins that help out and keep everything organized. And then this week, kind of joined a new team outside of the league, so I gotta give a shout out to Race Tech Esports and Travis Manning, Swafford, and all the guys back there for putting out a wonderful setup.
All right, buddy. Well, we'll let you get back to your team. We'll see you next week at Texas.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
All right, now let's see if we can get his teammate. So Chad Gunningsman, Mr. Consistency. Let's see if we can grab him really, really quickly up here in the booth. So Chad, this is Sean and Brandon up in the booth. We call you Mr. Clean and we call you Mr. Consistency, and you just proved why we do that tonight.
Yeah, it definitely was I think my car finished cleaner than most, except for maybe Tim. Just for missing a little bit of speed in the long run. That kind of made me have to go off strategy a little bit. Probably hurt us in the long run during that race.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, Chad. First of all, congratulations on a podium, a P2 finish. The one thing, I don't know if you watched the strategy or the race back after, I was going to ask if it was strategy. We didn't really say your name a whole lot for at least probably the first 130 laps. Did you kind of have it in your mind, or were you just feeling out the race car? Or was it strategy to stay at the back, just trying to be there at the end? What went through your mind, and pretty much, being down and out most of the race, but then making what needed to happen to get P2?
Really, I think in stage 1, when we got that caution lap 20, everybody took a set. I didn't take a set there, so that really just put us back for stage 1, where I lost 20 seconds. Basically gave up stage points to save a set. Ended up finishing with that set on the box. But if we had a caution with 10 to go, I think it was just me and Justin Boyles with sets left, so that's kind of what I banked on. But didn't get that caution with 10 to go, but that basically just set us back for stage 1 and part of stage 2. I think stage 2 we finished 5th, but just needed a little bit more on the long run. And then if we didn't get that, just needed that caution with 10 to go and have that one of the only sets left on pit road to put on.
We gave a stat a little bit earlier in the race where in the last 5 races, you've been in the top 6 4 times. Now it's 5 out of the last 6, obviously. So is that going to be enough if there's not a win in your future? Is that going to be enough to get you into the next round?
Could be, but I don't want to bank on that. Tonight we were really trying to go for the win. I think really the first 6 races of playoffs, you can point your way pretty easy. That's kind of what I did. Not really trying to tear up a car and finish dead last in a race. And really, that's kind of how we made it through the round with Talladega. I don't think I had a top 5 all any of those races, but we made it by like 20 points just because we kept the car clean.
Yeah, buddy. So it's been a really, really good last half of the season for you. Look forward to seeing what else you can do out there. Is there anybody that you'd like to thank before we drop you back down in there in Flashpoint Racing?
Yep, everybody from Legacy Esports, Boyd Hogan, Bobby Dillon Hart, everybody worked on the car this week. It was really fast. It was just missing a little bit on the long run for these track conditions. I could kind of hang with Tim for 15 or 20, and then it kind of just started to be a little bit too tight behind him. So really just needed a caution, but otherwise just want to thank everybody who worked on the set and thank all of our sponsors, Butt Kicker, Abruzzi, Oculus Glasses for all they do to help our team.
All right, man. Well, we'll drop it back down in there. Once again, congratulations. We'll see you next week at Texas.
Yeah, see you next week.
All right, now it's time to talk to the man that finally got the monkey off of his back and finally won a race. You know, both times that he's won at Kansas has come off of 8 race winless streaks. And so Timothy Latham, Sean, and Brandon up here in the booth. How's it going, buddy?
It's been way too damn long. It's about time.
That's what
It
we
is
were just
about
talking
time.
about. Yeah, we were just talking about
Man.
that. The last 2 times that you've raced at Kansas, you've come in on an 8 race winless streak, and then all of a sudden Kansas just kicks you in the butt. And the last time you did this, you went back to back to back the next 3 races. So is that
Oh,
something we
man.
can look forward to?
I really hope it's not just the 3 races in this round, and I hope we can do it at Phoenix too. But yeah, it feels really good, man. It's been way too long. I felt like we had a great shot at Bristol to get a win in the playoffs, but we made a few mistakes, and Oscar had us beat on pit strategy there. So to come here and win again, it's a really good feeling for this Ray's great bubblegum Camaro. And I got to thank Racetech Esports for building this car for me. This is a great car, and we had fun all night with it.
Well, a couple of things. I've got a couple of facts, a suggestion, and then I'll get to my question. First of all, you've proven history repeats itself. That should be worrisome for the rest of the guys headed into Phoenix. You were able to repeat what you done at Kansas, and for their sake, they better hope you don't repeat what you did at Phoenix. On top of that, first win in the playoffs, but you re-break the tie. Now the sole 8-time winner for the moment in the iVCS this season, breaking the tie with Oskar Jensen. We're both tied at 7 for the guys that didn't know. Timothy reclaims that. My suggestion following those, pretty good success when debuting a new car. When it comes to a Raise Energy car, do me a favor. Save one of those debuts. Save your next debut for Phoenix, because you've always been fast when debuting a race car. But, you've kind of taken the pressure off. Obviously, you won stage 1. Maximize all the points you could all race long. I do also want to let you know that last time you led 123 laps, this time you led 132, so you even improved that. But, what's it like now to go into what you said would be your round with no pressure for the rest of it?
It feels great. I don't have to rely on a win anymore. And going back to what you said about debuting a new car, I did debut a Valvoline scheme the last time we went to Phoenix, and I won in that. So I'll try to paint a new car here and debut it at Phoenix this time. But yeah, it feels good. Not having any pressure anymore. I know I can go out there and pretty much do what I want. I'm still going to try for wins, obviously, and I think we got a good shot at Texas. We had a great run at Texas and looked like we were going to win the race until we got into an incident there earlier in the season. But Martinsville's not really a strong suit either. But again, I don't have to worry about it, so just glad to be in the championship for a race for a championship.
Well, man, is there anybody that you'd like to thank? But before you do that, I've got to tell you, you turned me onto these Raise drinks, and I bought a variety pack. Man, I've got a T-shirt coming, dude. I'm sold now. So a great ambassador for Raise energy drinks there.
Yeah, I've like I said earlier when you guys interviewed me after stage 1, I've been drinking a great bubblegum Raise all race. So glad they could propel me to victory this week.
Anybody else you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, of course. Every week, I want to thank you guys for putting us on and entertaining all the fans out there. And I want to thank all the fans that have been supporting me. And I want to thank my team Flashpoint. We finished 1, 2, 3 tonight, so it was a good showing. And hopefully we can repeat that next week and pretty much every week for the rest of the season.
Well, you're going to get your chance. Yeah, go ahead.
He's not going to go for the shameless self-promotion. So use code TEMPTATION, TIMTATION, right? Yeah. When you do order the Raise Energy, take it from the man that's put the cars in victory lane. I'll plug it for you, brother. You've earned it.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
All right, buddy. Have a great night, and we'll see you at Texas.
All righty. See you then.
All right, so Brandon, it is time to talk about next week's race. So we've got Texas, and everything's bigger in Texas, including the number of miles. So 335 miles next week.
That is going to be an absolute long race. The guys, much like Timothy Latham, that don't have to worry about it, obviously aren't going to mind that. But, I think we were at a 285 here, so about 50 more miles next week. Tempers started to flare at the end of this thing. I know much of the race, there were some displeased people with Zach York, even more so at the end. So tempers started flaring with Zach York and a few of the drivers. We'll see if it carries over next week. Obviously, the closer to elimination any of these guys get, the worse off the tempers are going to be. The tempers are going to flare. I do know for a fact, just looking at the standings, everything tightened. The race for the championship, I imagine now, excluding Kendall, who didn't have such a solid night, I would say, Sean, no more than 10 points separate third place back to what would be seventh place, I believe. So it's going to be a very, very tight couple of weeks, and they have to survive Texas in order to get to Martinsville. So it'll be crazy.
Well, for now, my name is Sean Griffith, and I'm here with Brandon Superman Brand Browning, and we will leave you guys tonight with this great burnout by Timothy Latham, the guy that has earned his way into the Final Four, and so now he can relax the rest of the way. But everybody else, please relax tonight. Have a great evening. We will see you next week at Texas as we go for round number 2 of the round of 8. So everybody have a great evening. Good night, everybody.